Welcome to episode 107 of the Reptile Gumbo podcast. We have a different lineup tonight as well. What? You're
Nothing.
Oh, okay. So Robert's here, but Katie is still not here. She's doing she's got a test tonight for teaching. So we're joined by Megan Slaggy something bitch. Whatever.
Yeah, he is on a roll tonight, isn't he, Megan?
Look, I know I'm going to screw your name up. I might as well screw it up the way I want to versus the way that I would end up screwing it up if I try to.
Next week, I might be filling in for James if he keeps it up.
Nah, no one else knows how to work all this stuff. We're good.
I'm sure I could YouTube the hell
We'll
out of it.
figure it out.
Megan, how do you pronounce your last name?
Sevyakovich.
Yeah, whatever.
I knew that.
Don't lie.
You're rude.
I am rude. That's part of why people love me.
That's part of his weird appeal.
So we this past week we had a show in Bryan College Station, which for anybody that's listening, that will be our episode next week. We actually did several interviews. It may actually end up being a two-parter, but I'm not going to do it 2 different weeks. I may put it out the first half on Tuesday and the second half on Thursday.
We definitely have some interesting content.
Yes,
We interviewed a couple of people that you guys have heard us all talk about, and
yes. So some of the people so there was some good some regular reptile talk.
Mhm.
We did interview Lone Star Panthers.
Panther
We talked about
Chameleons.
Panther
Yep.
Chameleons, and we interviewed. I have someone else. Who am I thinking of? Oh, shit.
do that.
The Dragons. I'm trying to think. I know. My brain went. Yeah, see, I have it written down in my bag over there, but I was too lazy to get up and get my
what
bag.
are they called? R&R Dragons.
R&R Dragons. Because the name of the yeah, R&R Dragons. We talked about tegus, and then we got to talk to Blake Wilson of Blake Wilson's Reptiles, which there will be an interesting story that many of the listeners will enjoy,
And you will not want to have your
but
children.
make sure you're over 18 just to be safe. And then we talked to Andy Hine, which we mentioned a lot on here, and he was very professional. I was very let down by how professional Andy was. It was
Yeah.
like business Andy, not
Yeah.
Andy.
He did a great job.
Ugh.
He dropped an F-bomb once and went, oh,
And he
sorry-
apologized.
Sorry. And I'm like,
I've never heard Andy apologize for cussing anywhere.
right.
It's very awkward for me.
Yeah.
And then we got to have Douglas Ray White, as Sean likes to say, and his wife Natasha. They were on, and I'm now going to make it a point that every time we do a recording at a show and they're there, they have to be on.
Dude, they were so good.
They were
The
so
two that
paranoid.
did not want to do it. Like
Oh.
they were so paranoid, didn't want to do it. They were some of the best interviews we've ever done.
Yes. Well, Doug is full of stories, and I told him he has to tell a story every time we have him on.
Yeah.
And then we also I'll show you a picture next week when I post the episode, but they also had, and it's been floating all over Facebook, but their Paradox, the new Paradox banana that they produced,
Yeah, it's been all over Facebook this week.
partially because Douglas Ray White's been putting it all over Facebook, but still,
Yeah, but there's been several people that
it is out
pictures
there.
of it. And
We took a picture. We'll post it next week when we post our episode.
Yeah.
Did
did you see it when you were there this weekend, Megan?
I didn't see it while I was there, but I think y'all were the ones that I saw a picture
Gotta-
of posted.
Got to talk into the microphone.
I thought I was talking to
There you
them.
go.
Yeah,
I'll figure it out.
that thing is.
I saw a picture of it or a video, something. It was really
Gorgeous.
cool.
Yeah, it's an awesome snake. Too bad it's not like genetic, but still a cool snake. And then we had some other interviews in there, and I just can't. We had Sean on,
We had Sean at the end.
and I feel like there's somebody in there.
That's it.
Is that it?
Yeah.
It was a lot. I realize I can't do 10 to 15 minute segments. It's just
No.
not possible.
30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes is about what we did.
Yeah, and I
Now,
definitely could have done way
it was
more.
fun, but at a busy show, there's no way I could do that.
No.
Not that. Yeah, and I don't want to say College Station wasn't busy, but it wasn't
No.
very busy for me.
It wasn't. I mean, you had an okay Saturday, and there were a lot of people through the door.
Sure.
A lot of people through the door. But it was hit or miss depending on the breeder. But
Yeah.
that's
Like I talked to some people that had like record shows.
So we got there early. That was the first College Station show that I'd been to because I don't ever have a reason to go out to College Station.
Right.
So, but it was definitely, it reminded me, I thought it was less busy than the Stafford show. That was like the last one that I went to that was down this way.
So you were there early on Saturday.
Yeah, we got
It
there
got
like
really
we got
busy
there
in the
like
afternoon.
right when it opened, mostly because I wanted to avoid any crowds.
It got
it got busy.
real
Did it?
busy, and then Sunday started off
Steady.
slow like Sundays always do.
And then got steady. It was an interesting show. You'll see several pictures on Facebook of some of the folks that shaved their heads for our buddy Chris Duncan, who's dealing with Hodgkin's lymphoma. So there was a silent auction, and for that they raised $5,000,
Yeah, it's 8,000 total.
Wow.
Between
8,000 total between several shows and all.
Awesome.
This week also Chris over at holy shit, my brain's on blank. Chris,
It's eaten. It's Steaks and the Fat
Steaks
Man.
and the Fat Man. Fuck me. It's spring break, and I just quit thinking during spring break. Over at Steaks and the Fat Man put out a video asking for people to go buy shirts. Some of the F Cancer shirts that are out. That was awesome. So go do that because Chris and Tracy, not Chris Eaton, but Chris Duncan, they are great people. Although Chris Eaton's a great person. Just don't tell anybody because he doesn't want to get out there. But he's an okay person.
Yeah, he's a pretty good guy.
I'm trying to think what else.
He messages me every Saturday and every Sunday. How'd the show go?
And every Tuesday night to fuck with you during the podcast.
Oh yeah, love it.
So, but they were there with Chris and Tracy. They were there, and everybody shaved their heads. And now Sean looks like a penis. Our buddy John Grant looks like a really ugly penis.
John Grant was the most. I think he was the most drastic change.
Oh, it was not good.
Yeah,
You're so sweet.
I told him if he walked past me,
nothing. We didn't.
No, we told him in his face. If he walked past me looking like that, I would not have recognized it was him. Not at all.
It would be like if I shaved my beard off. I think I could, if as long as I didn't speak, I could probably walk past
by.
you guys a couple times before you realize it was me.
Yeah. So
I mean, you figure my 11, almost 12-year-old has never seen me without a beard.
Oh, wow.
Never once in his life.
My husband did not have a beard when we first got together, but over the years, his hair traveled from here to here.
I think that's part of what mine is. It's compensating for the loss of it.
Yeah. He's not allowed to shave it now. He shaved it once at the beginning of the pandemic without telling me. I was not happy.
Dale in the chat wants to know more about the Lacey Act. We'll talk about the Lacey Act later tonight, I'm sure.
Yeah, definitely.
I'm trying to think real quick. Oh, shout out to our sponsors because Kay's not here to do it. If you need a high quality PVC rack or cage, yada, 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 LS Reptile Rack. It's the guy over here sitting to my right. Yeah. Go get a reptile rack or cage from him. Big changes coming to their business. It's going to be great. So look forward to that. Also, up here on the board, I got to remind myself. We got, Herps, because we just talked about them. The next Herps show is Slidell. 3 weeks? 2 weeks.
Dates, 2 weeks. 3 weeks. It's the 2nd and 3rd of March.
2nd and 3rd of March.
And then the 9th and 10th is Beaumont.
Beaumont, I'll be there.
And then the 16th and 17th is Temple.
Did you mean 2nd and 3rd of April?
Yes.
Yes, not March, April. Those are all April.
Yeah, sorry. 16th and 17th is Temple. And then the 23rd and 24th are Austin.
Temple is Easter weekend. I will not be there.
Yeah.
Austin, I will be there. I'll be at Beaumont. You'll be at all of them.
Mm-hmm.
That's your big run of a million shows. And this weekend coming up, we have a show.
I have no shows in May.
So you can rest.
Well, I have one, but no Herp shows.
We have the Lone Star Shirts show outside of San Antonio this weekend.
Yep.
We'll be there. You and I will be there.
We will be there.
So
my wife is leaving on a cruise.
I know I mentioned before on the podcast I was very upset because Huff wasn't going to be there. I wasn't going to be able to see his reptile collection, but he called me on Sunday and said, "Hey, I know I won't be there, so feel free to go by." And
is that better, Chris Eaton?
Shut the door to the. How do you even know the door's open?
Because you hear the echo, or you can hear something downstairs.
Fuck you, Chris.
But it just gets hot in here. So.
It does get hot in here, and we're fat. You should understand this.
I spent all day working in someone's crested gecko room where they keep it 83 degrees.
Robert spent all day working, and he hasn't done that in a long time. So leave him alone, Chris.
It was hot.
And then also, I'm gonna throw out there Wiregrass Exotics because they're up on there. I go by and see our friends the Ruas in South Alabama. Go get you some feeders. Check out the reptiles. I got my heat panel finally from them. I need to put that up in my cage at some point.
Wiregrass Exotics is my hero now.
Because you got a heat panel.
I got two.
Because no one else had them.
And a thermostat.
Yeah, and a thermostat.
Dallas brought them to me on Saturday, and he just put them behind the table, and I knew he said something. And on like Monday, I'm like going through. I'm like, where the fuck? Here's James's. Whose are these? And then she messaged me, "Hey, can I come get my heat panels?" And I was like, "Oh yeah, Megan told me I was getting heat panels for her from Dallas." I completely forgot. Like I could not remember who they were for.
I got a message from my dad said the background crazy loud, or the background is crazy loud. I don't know. I don't hear it.
That's strange.
It's super weird. Maybe it's all of y'all. Maybe y'all's backgrounds are loud.
No, I don't think it is. Is it still loud, Chris Eaton? Can you tell us? Because I closed the door.
We'll talk about that too. The guy smuggling the snakes. All right, so let's go ahead. We got our giveaway. Make sure you check out our giveaway on our Facebook page. We're giving away a bundle of books. We went to our local bookstore. We started grabbing books off. Some of them are kid books, some of them are adult books, some of them are field guides. But it's a bundle of reptile and amphibian themed books. All you got to do is go over to our Facebook page, tell us your favorite reptile book, and if you also post the link to buy it on Amazon, you get 2 entries in. So if your kids and clinging pots. I don't think that's our house. I think that's our guest. I have him turned down right now, but it's fine. It'll be okay, Chris Eden. Not everybody lives in a cave by themselves, so not everybody can have silence like you. All right. So speaking of our guests, let me go ahead and bring in our guest. Pull up the volume so I remember that he can actually talk now. All right. Put him on the screen so everybody can see him. Our guest tonight is Dr. Ben Morrill of Rare Genetics. I was going to say Rare Earth. That's a completely different person. Rare Genetics. And so we're going to talk about genetic testing, which you are oddly not our first genetic testing person here. Open the door because it's not. It's we'll melt in here. I can't do that. Chris will just have to suck it up.
Yeah, it's probably noise from my house. I'll remind them right now. They got to quiet down.
I do the same thing.
Yeah.
Earlier they were a little loud.
But we had earlier this year, or this was last year, we had Dr. Seidel and Dr. Graves from the Ball Python Genetics Project, who were working with some of the albino genetics testing in ball pythons, which I'm sure you are familiar with. I'm sure it's not a very large community of people doing genetics testing on snakes for the hobby. So, but you're doing much more. So if you give us just a brief overview of what you're doing, and then we can get into that, and we had some questions and stuff like that.
Sure. Yeah. So in 2011, I finished my PhD, and I guess, really it goes back probably like most listeners, as far back as I can remember. I've been catching snakes and lizards and frogs, whatever. But yeah, all through school, high school, I ended up talking to Joe Mendelson, who's the curator of reptiles at the Atlanta Zoo now. He was at Utah State University near where I grew up. And that's when I kind of started to be able to do some research. I helped him out as an undergrad. But specifically what I'm doing now, once I graduated with my PhD, I was able to kind of focus back. As a grad student, I was doing genetic testing, things like that, but it was geared towards industry, food animals, mostly cattle, pigs, some reproductive research with mice, mouse embryos, things like that. But always molecular biology and genetics. But yeah, 2011, when I graduated, I was able to start thinking about herps a lot more again. And a good friend of mine, Sean Christian, who ran the Morrell Pythons forum back in the day, for anyone listening that was on the forums way back in the day, when forums used to be a thing. Social media kind of shut that down, but we met up at Tinley's show in 2011. So it was right after I graduated, and the complete carpet python book that I helped write one of the chapters for, that had just came out. So I went to Tinley to sign books and sell it for the first time there. And Sean was there, and we talked lots about ideas of things that we could potentially do. He's had several successful businesses, and since then, since 2011, we've been thinking about ideas. Since 2015, I started, really kind of putting the pedal to the metal and going into the literature. And all through this time, I'm working a full-time job, and I have 4 kids. So lots of distractions along the way. But eventually what ended up happening, the first thing we were able to offer commercially is a sex determination test for colubrid snakes and venomous snakes, so lapids and viperids. And then other things have kind of developed, some things that people have been interested in, like Panther Chameleon localities. There's a really awesome paper where they took like 320 blood samples and got the DNA from them and published all that information. So I have a lot of information with locality tied to it to compare to. Dumerel's boas and Madagascar ground boas. There's interest in being able to tell those 2 species apart, whether they're pure or crosses. So we're working on a test for that. And then the really big one here recently is with sequencing prices coming down. And I have a connection to a genomics institute, the Hudson Alpha Genomics Institute, where they have a lot of experience using the software that they've developed to find small genetic differences that lead to a phenotype. So some, outwardly showing trait, which in our case with ball pythons, color and pattern mutations. And so they've not used it in animals. It's mostly been used in plant species, but we have a really good pipeline in place to be able to find lots of different mutations and be able to get them nailed down. And then the last 20 years in my full-time job, I've been designing genetic tests and running them and teaching, training other people to run them. And so I'm in a pretty good spot to be able to help orchestrate figuring out those sequences, designing tests, validating them, getting them set up and run so that we can do fairly high throughput there'll be lots of people, anyone with a ball python, they don't know for sure what it is, or if you get a pos het, you want to know for sure if it's het or not. And, all of those things, hopefully we'll be able to start answering those real quick.
So your goal is to basically send you a ball python shed and you can tell them exactly what's in it. Not they have to give you an idea and you're somewhat looking for a marker, but you can tell them, no, this is a pied marker. This is a whatever.
Yeah. So to start with, like right now, today, we can test, and this is from work from other people, for piebald and for lavender albino. Those two tests are really good. So Dr. Sedell was the one that figured out the lavender albino, and then a group in Canada figured out the pied. Yeah. So, I mean, they didn't develop a test, but they found the sequence, and then I developed a test and I've run it on over 100 pied or het pied samples now, and it works really, really well. So those two we have nailed down. But what we want to do over the next 2 to 4 months, we should be able to add another 6 or 8 to that. And so we would have a panel that we would be able to run for people. And hopefully another year later, we have 20 or 30, or, it'll be something we'll just keep, working on it and adding more morphs to. So we have a big, nice panel. Someone can send a shed in and we can do a test and tell you if there's only 1 or 2 genes you're interested in, we can do that. But if you just want to send a shed in and say, hey, what is this? Yeah, we'll be able to do that.
Well, that's awesome.
That is awesome.
That would, like, and we talked about before when we talked about testing, that'll completely change the hobby, and we can start getting rid of some of the possible het tags on things. And you can test something out when they're 3 months old instead of having to wait for 4 months and breeding it and seeing, oh shit, that's not what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. We have a female clown that's also Orange Dream and Fire, and I think 1 or 2 Enchi. Anyway, she was a cool female. She was also pos het pied, but we were able to prove her out as being het pied, and so now she's way more powerful, and we definitely aren't selling her.
Well, it's also cool because, like I said, when we talked with the guys over at the Ball Python Genetics Project, Dr. Graves had fairly recently become a reptile person or a snake owner, but you've been in the hobby for a long time. So you've taken your hobby and your job and really pushed it forward.
Yeah. I've been doing both genetic tests and breeding ball pythons. My first clutch ever was a ball python clutch. I've bred lots of other python species, and I did get a boa litter, and I've had a few king snake and milk snake clutches along the way, but mostly pythons, and then ball pythons almost exclusively the last 4 or 5 years. So it's been over 20 years of both genetic testing and breeding pythons.
That's awesome. I'm very excited to see how that goes. I know the being able to test for sex is a big thing in a lot of species, especially if you can get that for things like monitors or blue tongue skinks or some tortoises and stuff like that.
I can announce I've got one for blue tongue skinks, and it seems to be working. So I have people sending in known male and females. I'm testing just like I did with the pied test. I ran over 100 there to make sure it's working well. I'm doing the same thing with blue tongues, but yeah, looks like blue tongues and probably a Gurnia as well.
That's great.
Yep, awesome. On the way.
Yeah, because some of those species, like with some of the colubrid stuff, because some of the colubrids you just can't sex. I talked with Travis Wyman, and he has those beak snakes, and you just can't sex. He talks about how the hemipenes and those things are so sensitive. Actually, a friend of ours was going to buy some of the show this weekend, and she was very worried about it. And so she talked to him, and he told her, he said, go to them and ask them if they've sexed them. And if they've sexed them, turn around and walk away. And
the red beak.
And they did, yeah. And they had sexed them. And so she turned around and walked away.
See, now, I didn't know that because I actually walked past that table, and I've been wanting one of those guys for a while. I just haven't brought him home. but it did say on the label, like,
Male, female.
male, female, but I had no idea.
According to Travis, you can't pop them.
Wow.
And if you try to probe them, you will tear straight through the hemipenes.
Wow.
And so
but now you know, you want to ask them if they've got a certificate from Rare Genetics
Yes.
Inc.
Yeah, they had probed these.
Okay.
And I don't know who Sable is, so it easily could be somebody I know and I'm friends with. And so I don't.
It is.
See,
It is?
that's
it's like
something that I wouldn't have known because I don't do breeding or anything like that. I'm almost exclusively, I just do wildlife stuff for the most part. So I'm excited about this episode because I don't know squat about genetics. I am the last person you want to ask about genetics.
It's funny. I'm a high school biology teacher, so I have a fairly decent understanding of just like basic genetics. But I've been in this hobby for almost 20 years, and it's very funny to watch people who barely passed high school who will just spout off ball python genetics because now they breed ball pythons. But they don't have a full understanding of genetics. They just have what they've been regurgitated over and over again. So I'm sure as a geneticist, it has to drive you nuts getting into a genetics conversation with just like a random person who thinks that they're equal to you because they bred like 5 ball pythons.
It definitely used to bug me when I was in college. There's some threads. There's one that was really long. It was on a king snake forum.
Yes.
A ball python king snake forum, probably 2004.
Talk about a page on king snake that I have never been to. The ball python forums.
Yeah, I mean, just the fact that people didn't understand that
incomplete.
That co-dominant thing that drove me nuts. So yeah, incomplete dominant. I didn't think it would ever change, and I eventually kind of gave up. But it's nice
slowly.
that people recognize, at least some people recognize the difference now. But yeah, I mean, it doesn't matter. It doesn't bother me as much now. And when I'm at a show, I talk like a ball python keeper, and people want to talk about detailed specific things. I'm happy to do that too, but I'm there to have fun, and I don't let it stress me out.
Yeah, you're not throwing out words like loci or alleles. You're just staying away from that terminology
most of the time.
I talked to I can't remember the vendor this weekend. It was D and something
Retic.
Yeah.
Jackson.
Because eventually I would love to add a dwarf retic to my collection, and they started talking about some genetic stuff, and I'm like, my concern is how big is it going to get, and is it pretty? That's all.
So that one's so what I do know about dwarf retics, and this is all from what I've heard of Garrett Hartle, who does dwarf retics, is I've heard that if it's the female is not the dwarf, then you can pretty much throw it out the door that it's probably going to get bigger than you want.
Yeah, there was one, and it takes me a while to like catch on to the science stuff because I'm an English and history nerd.
Ugh.
Like that was who I was in school. So math and science is like way down here. But they said there was one particular locality where if it was like more than I think 25% or something, then you could guarantee that it was going to stay smaller.
So your island species tend to be smaller. Like you'll see in boas also, they're dwarfs. So it's one of the I don't know. That's another thing I'm not and we'll get into it because they do locale stuff.
It's so complex. I mean, it's mind blowing.
I try to stay away from locale stuff because I get confused on. That's why I don't do gray band king snakes. I haven't done rosy boas as much as I like rosy boas. I have one pair of rosy boas because I can't do locales. But I know with retics, there's a lot of locales. And then also on the other side, there's a crap ton of genetic morphs now. So
yeah. And I'm wondering too, I mean, I don't know if this is a thing, but I mean, obviously ball pythons are the most popular snake in the hobby. And I don't know if that's because it seems like they have the most diverse number of like genetic combinations. And so that's why they're so popular, or if they have the most diverse.
It's size and color.
Because
size and color
and temperament
yeah, I mean and ease of being able to get them for the last 40 years out of the wild when they look different than the other ones who got out of the wild.
Importing tens of thousands every year.
Because I haven't seen any other species of snake that comes in as many varieties.
I mean, because there's a lot of cool Australian pythons out there, but we just can't legally get them.
Yeah, let me tell you, I'm on the children or the Antaresia page.
Oh yeah, some of the stuff they have there for children.
I'm constantly forgetting that most of the keepers in there are in Australia. So I see all these morphs and I'm like, oh my god, that's so cool. And I'm like, oh, not for me.
Blackheads too.
Yes,
awesome blackhead morphs that I wish we could get.
I was watching Crocodile Dundee 2 the other day, And there's the part where they're all the bad guys are sleeping in their camp, and he comes running in and throws the bag down. And the guy says, "Just a python, you big girl," and it's a huge blackhead. And I'm like, "Yeah, but they'll bite the shit out of you."
We'll bite the shit out of you. Yeah, that
I watched one bite the crap out of somebody at a show a while back.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Rock Reptiles had some really beautiful.
Oh,
ones this
Jim.
weekend.
Oh, Jim.
Yeah. Jim makes
He's
some
got
of the,
those exanthic ones.
If I only had
yeah.
a spare $5,000.
That's my speckled king snake came from him, but yeah, I want one of his Swiss line blackheads.
They were
Yeah,
so
he's always had
gorgeous.
nice ones for years now.
Jeez, it's always crazy how like one person just does so much better at a species than other people. Like it's yeah. And he's so unassuming.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you would never.
I mean, one little table, he's very quiet. Got just like a couple ball pythons and some blackheads, but man, they're amazing blackheads.
Yes, they are.
Was not expecting to walk away with, oh, guess I need one of those now.
They're cool. They're another one when you kind of like Angolan pythons. Like when
Yeah.
you hold them, when you see them in person and you hold them,
Yes,
it's just different. Like you, especially if you're a person that doesn't really like ball pythons, you see an Angolan, you're like, it just looks like a.
took
weird
me a
ball
long time to
python.
like them.
Man, I tell you what, you spend very much time around them. They're completely different
Now I'm
personality.
gonna have to look them up.
Who is it? Brumley that has them?
Brumley.
He gets pissed when you say they're
Ball
they're like
pythons.
just like
He-
they're like a ball
he
python.
got it.
They're not like a ball
Obviously,
python.
Bumpy
Got at
ball
least
pythons.
one of them from me. Might have been a pair. I can't remember.
Oh, really?
They
Yeah.
yeah, he always compares them more to like a dwarf rock python, maybe without the attitude, but like they're definitely gonna move more. They're not gonna ball up, and they're not gonna, and they're bigger.
But
Jason Brumley's another one that runs under the radar. If you're not in green tree pythons or stuff like that, you may not know who Jason is, but man, he's got some amazing stuff.
it's just like a cooler.
That is
version
true.
of a ball python.
We have a listener that wants to know.
Have you ever walked away from an animal without saying, "I guess I need one of those now"?
You know what, Travis? You know where you can go.
It's one of your friends, right?
Yes, it is one of my friends. And guess what, Travis? Look, I'm coming home with another snake.
Yeah, Robert brought her.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call it Sagicorn just so I can piss off people.
A Slowinski corn.
But no, you'll get your Antaresia at some point, just like melanistic blue tongues magically showed up in the United States.
I need all of them.
Give it time. Someone in Germany has
visited
to
Germany at some point.
got to go through Germany first, and then it will magically. Oh, it just bred here. It's crazy. Or you could do the fake pregnancy belly to get leucistic boas into the country. That's also a fun story.
Doesn't always work.
Yeah, I know him.
Somehow you can do it, get in trouble for it, and still get away with it. That's the most amazing part. That's
Yeah.
some of the stories in herpetoculture are just, if you didn't actually know the people that did them, you're like, there's no way that actually happens. But like paying off a vet, using a fake pregnancy belly, sneaking a snake into another country, just doesn't seem like something that someone would actually do, and yet it happened. And then they got really ballsy and put it on the front of Reptiles magazine.
I feel so vanilla because that would just never occur to me to do that ever.
It does when the price tag is there. So I remember when those snakes first showed up on King Snake Forum in a video, and I was like, "Holy fuck!" And then and then they were here, like the guy that just snuck across into the United States with a shit ton of horny toads in his.
He had horned toads and he had some tortoises, I think.
I'm more.
And his shirt is like all in his shirt.
I was a little impressed. I'm not gonna lie. The effort that it took to hide all of them
into his shirt.
Yes, it had to be uncomfortable.
I would imagine. I mean, he had to have smelled horrible.
Oh yeah.
I mean, because they're just shitting and pissing all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
Do we
I think
know
they
what
said that
snakes?
they were like in bags?
I don't remember what snakes they said. I knew there were.
There's 8 or 9 snakes, but I never saw which species.
And I imagine the colubrids, which means they were musking the shit out of them also. So he just had to, like, there's no way. He rolled his window down and they went, "Yeah, you're going to have to step out." Like this,
Might be how he got
perfume.
caught.
oh. But so going back to some of the,
That Facebook user that put Megan with the heart is Brittany Deason.
Hi, Brittany.
The owners of, the hell's the name of their store? Just Repticulture.
I was like,
Right
good.
in
It's
my
not just me
head.
that forgets shit. We're great. So going back to some of the genetic testing, I think one of the coolest things you touched on is locale testing, being able to test genes for locales, because there are several species where that is, that's a big thing. One that I find interesting is green trees, just because after the study came out last year about the green tree genetic testing and how genetically different they are just from one place to the other. And the fact that as a group, Green Tree people have kind of become okay with mixing that shit together. They're like, yeah, no, we're good. It turns out black. We're fine. It's got blue color. We're great. We're wonderful. Like, y'all keep moving on. Yeah, don't mix everything else together. But that you'll be able to finally kind of figure that out with some of these species. Go, yeah, no, that's not what that is. Especially like with scrub. I know somebody mentioned with scrub pythons when we asked the question, because that's a big thing. Because we're not there when they're collected. And a lot of the stuff that we get in when it says it's from here, it's shipped out of an airport there.
Right.
But that is not where that local dude caught it, on top of a mountain somewhere, 500 miles away. So how do you get your data for some of that? I mean, are you just having to trust that some of the stuff you're testing is real data to go from, is real a real animal from that place?
I try to not have to trust at all. I try to, like with the Panther Chameleons, that's the ideal situation. Like those people went all throughout their range, caught these animals, did a blood draw, and took pictures. They did some color things with them as well. But the biggest thing was having DNA samples from, I think it was 320 or 340 different Panther Chameleons throughout their range. I mean, that you can't ask for a better genetic sampling. So to be able to have that kind of information to compare to is perfect. It's not going to be that perfect for everything. And I'm kind of just focusing on ones as people are interested enough, like the Panther Chameleon group. There's a group of people. Jonathan Hill kind of led the charge. They got money together to be able to fund, me spending my time in the literature and going on to GenBank and finding all the sequences and doing the, comparing. So that's why the two projects that have kind of been keeper funded projects, the Panther Chameleons and then the Madagascan boas, that's why I've took a dive into those, and there's been enough published information for both of those that I have something to start with. And really cool thing about the ground boas and Morrells is some of the keepers have animals that are 40 years old and came directly from a zoo and
nice.
Things like that. So there's some that there's documented information and caught animals that have DNA samples. So that's what I can really use as my anchor to tie to compare. I certainly can't trust somebody bought this from someone who got it from that. Those are the ones that I run after I have something to compare to.
Yeah, and it's got to be obviously a species from an area where you can get to, because some places in the Middle East you're obviously not going to be able to test some of those animals because you can't get enough samples from that area.
Yeah. Yeah, we're not going to do locality Angolan stuff. That's for sure. Angolan pythons. Someone will lose their arms and legs or lives getting those samples.
Yeah, it's not worth it. Just enjoy this for Jason Berlin. Just enjoy your bumpy ball python.
Do you have to have does the shed have to be a certain sample size?
Super small. I know that it can be pretty small.
It can be. Well, I'm just curious because I have a Euromastix, for example, and they don't shed their whole body at once. They take half a fucking year to shed everything. So it's just little tiny pieces at a time. So I'm thinking can I send in something that's really small like that and you can still run it?
Yeah, actually the DNA extracts better from small pieces. So one of the first things that I would do if I need a lot of DNA, I'm using a bigger chunk of shed, then a lot of the time, like the protocols you'll see in papers, people actually cut them up into smaller pieces. So if you have a lizard like with the blue tongues where we have that sex determination test, or we've got Heloderma that should come later this year.
Awesome.
Any of these lizards, that frequently the sheds come in small pieces. That's no problem. So the rule of thumb is to send me enough to cover a quarter size piece from a snake. You can just tear it out. If it's a lizard, just kind of stack it, and if you get about the size of a quarter there, that's plenty. What I actually use is probably the top of a number 2 pencil eraser. That's what I'll normally use to extract from.
Huh.
Is there a reason that it works better from a smaller sample size versus a larger?
Yeah. So what we have to do, the DNA is inside of the cells that's inside of the skin. And so that skin has a really tough matrix, that's to protect that animal's insides. And just like our skin, that's keeping our insides in and the bad things out. So we use chemicals, agents that will break down the proteins in the skin, but then specifically we use we call it a lysis buffer. So we use something that will lyse the cell membrane as well. So we have to digest proteins, and then we have to lyse that membrane. And so if you're physically cutting it into smaller pieces, you're already kind of breaking some of those membranes down. And then the chemicals, it's less work the chemicals have to do. They'll be able to get more of that DNA free. So for us to test the DNA, it has to get out of the cell, out of the skin, to where our primers can get to it and do the polymerase chain reaction, or PCR.
Fancy biology term, lyse
Okay.
means to burst, for anybody out there wanting to learn biology.
I just
Explode.
saw.
I slept through biology.
I have some of those. You saw what?
I just saw in Ball Pythons of Texas, I think a guy posted that. I'll find it. Hold on. I'll keep going.
Okay. So I do have a question. So talking about that, going with that, the one thing that I thought was going to be kind of hard to do, how do you end up doing tortoises? Because shedding is not really an option there. You're not getting big chunks of skin off a tortoise to be able to test that.
I've never done any turtle or tortoise samples. First of all, I've been mostly focused on sex determination, and anything that is temperature dependent sex determination,
yeah.
I can't do a genetic test for. So that already rules out a lot of turtles and tortoises.
That sucks.
But if there was a genetic test we wanted to do on any turtle or tortoise species, I would have to talk to someone. The other things that I would usually do would be like a scale clip, or something like that. I don't know how that would be with a turtle or a tortoise. If there's a way you could take a little bit of skin, I haven't worked with turtles and tortoises, so it's gonna that's a big barrier to sex determination. Any of the temperature dependent species, I can't.
Crocodilians are out as well. That sucks.
Yeah, and a lot of the geckos and.
Yeah, because otherwise you're waiting like 7 years to sex a tortoise.
Yeah, you gotta wait till they get curved on the belly or not.
Yeah.
So it's a pain.
What about ultrasound for them? Do you know? Is it still that many years to be able to ultrasound them?
I don't know.
I have no idea.
Yeah, I don't know. That's a good trick for Heloderma. You can get them a little earlier by ultrasounding them. I don't know how early turtles and tortoises start growing follicles.
I don't know either.
I don't know. I've got my first baby, so
Me too.
I'm still learning.
I've got babies and adults, and the adults are old enough for me to go, yeah, that's a male.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I just look out there and go, it's a male.
Well, I have a 42-year-old, almost 43 now, ornate box turtle that we call her by a female name, but we have no clue what her gender is.
Is there not like a more clear way to determine their sex?
You have to pair them up and see which one gets on top.
Yeah. All right.
That's why I like red ear sliders. It's the only thing I like about red ear sliders.
They're the ones with eye color difference.
Well, the red ear sliders have the fingernail difference.
Oh, is that what it is?
Yeah, the males have huge claws holding on to the female. And so every time someone posts an adult with these huge claws, like, that's a boy.
Yeah.
I think one of the turtle species eye color was different, and I thought that was pretty interesting. But
that is cool. I don't know that one. I gotta find that out now.
It always cracks me up because in the Redfoot tortoise group, people will post a picture and they'll be like, "What's coming out of my tortoise?" And we're like, "Congratulations, it's a boy."
Yeah,
it happens in sulcata groups all the time. It's this giant alien penis just flopping around in the yard.
Did your parents not have the birds of the bees?
Right? I'm like, I don't understand why you're asking this question.
I can somewhat forgive them because it's a weird fucking penis.
Sure.
I mean,
I bet they think ours is too, though.
That's true. For anybody that's never seen a tortoise penis, Google that shit. That's
if you really want to get interesting, Google a pig's penis.
Is it shaped like a corkscrew? Yeah,
it's a weird one.
Or if you're really interesting with a cat penis, it's got barbs on it.
Yep.
You ever wonder why a cat screams when they're breeding? You would too. But yeah, no, tortoise penis it's a tube with a fucking plate on the end of it.
All right, we went off fucking.
Not a problem I have to worry about.
So let's get back. So the question we asked for this week was, what genetic testing do you think would be most helpful to the reptile keepers, our two reptile keepers? We had several, and we talked about some of them already. We had several answers. Jason Brumley is the first one that pops up. Looking forward to sex determination test for pythons to be completed. That would be really nice for green tree pythons, definitely, because green tree folks have to hold on to those things forever for once just to see what color they're going to be. But then it'd be nice to be able to sex them.
We're getting all kinds of information about different.
Oh, there's all sorts of penises. Yeah. Warren Booth. I did know ducks have corkscrewed penises also. I knew that. Yep. And I don't want to know why Douglas Ray White-nosed goosepeckers have barbs, but
Because he's from the country.
yeah, we're gonna go with that's why.
Some hemipenes are pretty crazy looking too.
If he would have commented, goosepeckers have barbs, and they hurt, then we'd have a problem.
That is true.
But
That is true. Let's see. Warren Booth. I have green trees done right now, just not released that yet. Well, I've told everybody, so there you go, Warren. My bad.
We should
Dr.
have
Warren
that very
Booth.
soon as well.
Yeah, Warren, you won't be the only one. Suck it over there in Oklahoma.
that he speaks only for himself, Warren.
I love Dr. Warren Booth.
Yep.
Let's see. Sean Grade said tortoise keepers would like it, but we already had that conversation. Sorry, Sean. You're just gonna have to keep waiting until that penis pops out.
Yep.
Or doesn't pop out.
What's like Kona? I guess she's big enough to sex because they call her a female.
Yeah, she's got a big old flat belly. It's you can tell on like the big adult Aldaras.
Yeah.
It's pretty obvious. Warren Booth is leaving Oklahoma.
What?
Are you going to Florida?
Well, I knew he said he was going to interview.
Where are you
I guess
going,
they
Dr.
made him an
Warren
offer
Booth?
that made it worth it.
I mean, I won't blame you for leaving Oklahoma. It's Oklahoma.
Right.
I've only been there once and I'm good. Jessica Hare said, I didn't know this was a thing in corn snakes. I knew it was a thing in boas, but test for stargazer in corn snakes. What is stargazer? Is it like in boas where they just stare at the sky? Well, I don't know.
Virginia Tech.
Virginia Tech. Oh, now they're going to have 2 geneticists over there around Virginia.
Yeah.
You can go hang out with Travis. Oh, wait, I think I do remember. I didn't read the entire conversation. I do remember seeing something about that.
Who's going to Virginia Tech? Is that Warren?
Warren.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's 20 minutes from. Actually, I work at the Virginia Tech Corporate Research Center.
All the
Virginia's
geneticists.
going to be a state for reptile genetics, man.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Just ship
That's
your reptile
amazing.
stuff to Virginia. It will
See,
find somebody.
I want to go to dinner with him, Travis, and Warren and just sit there because
No,
I have
you'll be
nothing
fucking
to contribute
Be fucking confused as
at
hell.
all.
Oh,
Yeah.
I pulled up a tab. Oh, I was gonna look up Stargazer.
Endowed professor position.
Endowed. Whoa.
Wow.
Hey, Warren. That's calm
He
down.
didn't say well endowed.
Oh, I'm trying to figure out what Stargazer. See, stargazing corn snakes.
Well, that's awesome, Warren. I look forward to hanging with you here. That's
yeah,
pretty
man,
cool.
that's cool. Congratulations.
Way
by
to
the
go, Warren. Way to go on getting out of. I never understood how someone moves from where you moved from. And like, I mean, we've talked about it, but still.
Sure. I mean, he
Oh,
explained it to us.
But in Oklahoma, there's just so many better places. And he says it is well endowed. Yeah, right. So apparently Stargazer, from just reading on a quick Google search, is a recessive gene that causes neurological problems in corn snakes.
So I have had several people ask about that, and I told them, get me samples that are known stargazers, and I've got plenty that are not known stargazers to compare to, and then we can do that work. That's something that would work well with the Hudson Alpha Institute, the pipeline they have set up. That would be really great. If I had 30 to 50 that are known stargazers, or het, 100% sure they're het for stargazer, then we could get that test figured out.
So would you would test them and you're looking for the differences. You're looking for what is different in these than in the known stargazers and the known non-stargazers.
Yeah,
You'll identify, okay, all 50 of these had this particular whatever. I don't know all the words.
Yep. Yeah. So they're specific bioinformatics. So they're software to be able to identify small differences in DNA sequence. It scans through, the 1.5 billion base pairs, A's, T's, C's, and G's, and it takes the pool of known stargazers, the pool of known non-stargazers, compares them, and then just looks for any small difference between the two that's common in one group and absent in the other group.
So this is more than just a simple basic gel electrophoresis looking at bands kind of thing.
Yeah, this isn't stuff that I'll be doing. This is stuff that I'll be collaborating with them. I'm not a bioinformatics person. I know a little bit to be able to do some, and ironically, the code that I use is Python, so that's pretty awesome. So the little bit I do is with Python and Perl, but I would not be able to do this on my own. This collaboration with them is a huge, between them and the sequencing costs going down, that's what's making it possible for us to do this economically.
Warren asked if it's viral or linked to a gene. I think it's linked to a gene. From what I saw, it was Stargazer was a recessive trait.
That's what people have told me. I have not looked up any papers on it, so I don't know. But it seems like from what I've heard from multiple independent sources that it's a simple recessive trait.
Yeah, so different than like in boas when you get it when they have IBD. Is it IBD? IBD. Yeah.
Inclusion body disease. Yep.
They just start staring up and then they're going downhill and they're gonna die.
I'm gonna try to like make this question make sense.
Good luck.
Thank you. So through all of the genetic testing that you're doing, is there a way to take your research and figure out ways to, I guess, produce certain genetics that could eliminate like certain conditions that come with those genes? Like, for example, in ball pythons, it seems like the spider morph is pretty controversial because of certain neurological issues that can come with
And it's
that.
attached to the gene.
And so is there a way to like eventually possibly get rid of that in this particular gene through the research? Or because it seems like people insist on continuing to breed it despite the known risks.
Because it's pretty.
I mean, I guess
it's the same reason we breed jaguar.
I don't think it's
carpets.
that impressive.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not a ball
But
python.
if you've seen
person
a jag carpet is really pretty.
I have seen a jag carpet.
And they're also mentally fucked up.
I don't know that.
There was a vendor this weekend that had one, and I was asking him, has it had any neurological issues? Said, no, nothing I've ever seen. And I look over and it's completely upside down.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there it is, bro.
Yeah.
I've produced lots of jags and lots of spiders, and I've never had any that are the fall over, horrible. They're a little different.
That's
but
the question I'm
they still
basically
eat and
asking
breed.
in short words.
So
if we can
to me-
manipulate genetics.
Yeah. So the short answer to your question, if you'll let me tell a little bit of a story after I give you the short answer.
Go for it.
Short answer is no. There's nothing we can do. Not anytime soon. Can't imagine that there would be a way we could. The somewhat longer answer, when I was in grad school, there was a chicken genetics person that I was talking to, and there are similar mutations that do a similar thing in chickens, and the research they've done there is a lot deeper. And I would imagine we would find the same thing in spider ball pythons. The reason why the color and pattern is different is because the melanocytes, so that dark pigment that while the embryo is developing, the melanocytes have to move along the neural crest. And when they're doing that part of the embryonic development, this genetic change is causing that to get messed up, so it doesn't follow the normal path. Well, it's not only the melanocytes moving, it's also nerve cells. And so the same reason why you're getting that color and pattern change is the same reason why the wiring for that animal is messed up. So you can't really get one without the other, at least with that specific mutation. Now, could there be some crisper, elegant way 20 years from now that we could figure out a way to just make the melanocytes move and not the neurons? I don't know, maybe, but yeah, it's not a simple thing. You're not going to breed it out. You're not going to, change anything there. It's the same process, those cells moving during embryonic development and not moving the right way along the neural crest. That's most likely what's happening in spiders as well, and jags for that matter.
Yeah, they and I haven't seen a ton that are like you'll see all the Facebook or all the YouTube videos of where the spiders and stuff are really fucked up and falling over. I've had a jag carpet, and they get retarded at times. Like feeding causes them to kind of get really excited, and then kind of flop around for the rat because they don't have the best aim.
Yeah, we've got that one spider that I bought for my daughter's girlfriend, and it's perfectly fine until you put a rat in there.
Oh, it sounds like my banana.
I've watched it turn completely upside down and strike the rat upside down. Perfect shot, but completely upside down. It's also hit me the same way too.
The very first female spider that I bought, so this is back in like 2005, 2006.
So you paid way too much for it.
I paid $4,500 for her. She, in the last 2 or 3 years, is finally getting bad enough that I wasn't comfortable with it.
Yeah.
So I did have her euthanized, but I mean, she made it a lot of years where she really didn't have many problems at all. It was not until she was over 15 years old that she started having significant problems. But like you guys are saying, I have seen videos, people have some that are really bad. I haven't had that experience myself. I've gotten gotten lucky, I guess.
I think there's several things that cause it to magnify. Like I said, excitement because at feeding time. I think stress. If they're warm, like warmer than usual, they're probably going to be like there's several things that cause it to be worse than it is. But there are plenty of animals that have lived a full life with those genes. It just comes down to, do you want an animal that may? I got rid of my Jag just because I was tired of opening the tub and go to feeding and it would just flop out and miss the rat every time. I was like, all right, I'm done. You got to go.
I can understand that.
But Warren Booth said disentangling whether we can disentangle the color/pattern from the neural issue is not possible at this point, which is what you said. Yeah.
I
100% agree.
Everyone who's more concisely.
Now, if we could just get Elon Musk
in the comments,
if we could just get Elon Musk interested in snake genetics,
That's true.
you know, he could get his alien technology.
Well, and it's not just the neural issue with that. And we've talked it with Travis before about like the bug eyes in leucistic animals, like leucistic rats, or in albino boas. That's also connected along that path. Like so, to the whole losing of color causes way more issues than the changing of pattern, is the way Travis explained it once. But there's the path that it goes also fucks up other stuff as well. So it's you just kind of got to deal with it sometimes.
It's kind of like saying, can I get a drug for my health condition that doesn't have side effects?
Yeah.
Most of the time, no.
So, but something I guess people can hold on. The problem is by the time we figure out how to do that, and if we could actually go in and change and make that happen, then a spider ball python will cost $20,000 again. It was genetically had to make the spider ball python. So back to our question. So I asked the question, what genetic testing do you think we need? And of course, I had a feeling someone like this would ask. Todd Autry said for snakes or keepers when I asked the genetics test. And then, and so I said, I knew he would. He said, well, it honestly was what he came to mind. I said, well, I guess maybe a test to understand what makes someone want to own ball pythons. That would be a good genetic test. I can figure that out. Scott Schmidt said locales will be amazing, especially for scrub community. He's got a picture of what was given to him as a Maruki scrub. Again, that would be interesting. Some of those things over there are just hard to get to. And so it'd be hard to get a large enough sample base, I would assume. Yeah. Because you got to get enough animals off this one island to figure out if they originally came from that island.
Yeah, and actually Dr. Booth probably would have a good answer for that. I think he's done some sequencing with some locality samples of several python species. So I don't have a good feel for how much has been published and how well I'd be able to do that.
He did say that might be happening to a degree. That's all he said, with a little smiley face.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that'd be cool. And now he's going to be my neighbor, so I'll be able to just go drive over, walk over, and bug him. So
that's awesome.
So Douglas Ray White I can't say his name without saying it all country, said, is that why there's no super forms or for lethal combos and spiders? Yeah, it's the same as like with boas. You can get a super motley boa and it'll be great for like about 2.5 years.
And then it's just dead.
And then it's going to die.
I didn't know that.
Same as, you can't get a super jag and carpets, or else you'll get a dead white baby. It'll just be an egg dead, So some of these things, because they mess up so much, you can't have two forms of the same gene or else it really fucks it up. So sorry, Doug. Quit breeding your spiders as spiders.
And there's similar things in other species, I think, like Morrill and dogs, and there's several. It's it's just a homozygous lethal.
Well, so when I worked at PetSmart, I remember somebody came in with a white boxer, and I'd never seen a white boxer. And I was talking to somebody, I said, yeah, there's a reason you don't see white boxers, because they tend to be deaf, and a lot of breeders will drown and kill the puppies so that no one knows that their dog throws whites.
It's like double Morrells. If you see a dog with a double Morrell, they tend to be blind. They can come out deaf. They can have neurological issues. If you see anybody trying to sell double Morrell dogs, run in the opposite direction. It's a terrible.
I'm not sure what Warren's referring to, but he said that's actually not true. So I'm not sure what he's referring to.
It might be the Morrells so that it's not lethal.
I have owned white boxers and they were totally fine.
I didn't say they were all born that way. I just heard there was an increased chance, and they told me that many breeders do not want them. But that's also you can have albino boas that are normal, and then you can have like my goofy ass one in there that was born with giant bug eyes.
Right.
With the most amazing color of any of my albinos.
That's like our palmetto corns. We have like 4 of them that are perfectly normal, and one that's like
with the big old bug eyes.
big old bug eyes. But he's growing into them now.
He's growing into his eyes.
So hopefully,
He said, I remember a guy at Tinley once that was selling palmettos. He was selling hets, and then like you got a 50% off a palmetto, but all he had was these giant bug-eyed palmettos. Like, yeah, I'd offer those off for discount as well. They look stupid. He says they go against the breed standards, and as such, they get labeled at. I gotcha.
Makes sense.
So I'm going to tell you, some dog breeders there's some fucked up people too.
Man, I bought a horse one time. I don't know, probably 15 years ago, from a guy up in northeast side of Houston, way out in the country, and he had me walk to the back of his I heard a bunch of barking, and he had me walk to the back to get a halter or something so I could walk this horse around. And he had probably 250 Yorkies in rabbit cages.
Holy shit.
That's not good.
And then he was going to hold that horse for me for a week because I didn't have the trailer. So I paid him half for the horse.
And just took the horse.
Well, I came back a week later. This is when I was a cop. I came back a week later, paid for the horse. And as I'm pulling out, we had Houston SPCA and the Grimes County Sheriff's Office pulling in because those dogs were in terrible conditions. And I found out too that he drugged that horse before I got there, because I rode that horse around for an hour and he was perfectly fine. And when I got him home, he tried to fucking kill me every day for a month until I sold him to somebody else.
You got his owner arrested. Jerk.
I would just like to say, as somebody who's been involved in dog rescue for over a decade, that was a very satisfying story to listen to.
Yep.
Warren said only a Southerner would say, I bought this horse one day. That's true. He's going to go off and be like a real Yankee now.
That's true.
Oh, going back to this. Oh, so Ryan Cox also said sexing green tree python babies, genetic testing for retic hybridization, which we talked about, and testing to see the sex for monitors and lychee geckos. So that would. Sean Gray said albinism strain identification, which would be cool in a lot of species, because there's a lot of species that have several different versions of albino, and especially like boas, sharp and call look very similar in some cases. And
it's like the albino and lavender albino and ball pythons. I mean, you can't really tell it apart.
Well, it was like JT was telling me about, he had one of the versions of albino for a boa, and then he had a supposed het for that same version, bred it together, and every snake looked normal. And come to find out that they were 2 different strains of albino.
Warren said they have retic locale studies underway as well.
Well, aren't you fancy?
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
Warren's all special.
Yeah, he's smarter than both of us put together. So
that's true. But I'm okay accepting that.
Oh yeah, me too. I'm not. There's no.
Travis is too, and I still make fun of him on a daily basis.
Right.
So I can make fun of smart people. Sean Grace also said allelic combinations, heterozygous gene identification. There's a whole lot of things. I know a lot of stuff has come from with leopard geckos. Originally, he bred leopard geckos, and there's a lot of confusion in some of those. In
collaboration with Garrett Hartle.
Oh. Well, Garrett does have a lot of locale stuff, so that'd be the person to go to for locale retic stuff.
I mean, if you buy a super dwarf retic, at some point it probably came through Garrett Hartle.
There's a good chance.
Yeah.
Or the person's lying to you and it's not really a super dwarf, and you wonder why your super dwarf got 15 foot long.
Right, exactly.
Why is my super dwarf 8 foot in a year?
Dax and Taylor have some gorgeous animals, and I'm not a retic guy. But my wife this weekend, she's like, I think I want to get Nope. We got Dumerals boas. They're big enough.
I wasn't a retic person either. In fact, when I first started keeping snakes, I was like, like nothing over 4 feet. That's good. And now I'm like, I can definitely fit a 12-foot snake in this room. 100%. My husband's thrilled.
Have you ever cleaned up a retic shit?
I haven't.
Okay.
I mean, I've cleaned up some really terrible animal shit, so I feel like a retic.
All right, so here's what you do.
Like challenge.
Here's what I need you to do. Go home. Tell your husband the next time he needs a shit, just do it in the corner of the living room, just right there in the corner of the living room, and then walk away. And then you have to find it, and then you have to clean it up.
Yep.
Can you be okay with that?
I've had that experience with a dog who had diarrhea in my house.
Yeah, me too.
I'll pass.
That's a step better than with your husband, though.
And my dog is the size of a small horse. So I have big ass dogs.
Richard Valdez, who's also in the chat earlier, said gender testing because skinks are ridiculous to sex, and testing for hets, which we've talked about, the gender testing for blue tongues, which y'all have done. There was blue tongue.
It looks good. It's not validated yet, but it's working.
Close.
Yeah.
I saw some blue tongues at the show this weekend that I really wanted. and still in my mind, I'm
Yeah,
like,
those Northerns.
yes,
Yeah, they were ridiculous.
I will own one. I can't own two because, you know, it'd be nice to be like, oh, we can genetically test these so you can make sure you don't put males to males, but it doesn't matter because the males will still rip the female's leg off at some point just for shits and giggles and then still fuck her. Like that's
Yeah, it's crazy, man. It's brutal. I've watched some videos of blue tongue breeding and it is
horrifying.
Yeah, like he's supposed to bite her on the back of the neck, but it missed and grab her by the leg.
And then she'll spin.
And then she'll death roll
and pop the leg off.
Leg gone.
I'm so glad I'm not a lizard.
Right.
Yeah. You see, look at the way some of the snakes breed. I mean, they grab by the back of the neck and just like it's weird how that became the evolutionary step for breeding. Like, hey, basically just go rape that thing.
I mean, yeah.
And it worked.
Okay, before I forget my question, actually, you mentioned you said it's not validated yet. So what is actually the process for having your research validated for all of these? Because I'm assuming that, like, you know, obviously you can only do genetic testing on species that you have information on. So what exactly, like, what does that look like?
So for me, that's the process that I go through. It's the same thing I do with my full-time job. I'll come up with a test, I'll design it, order it, and use it and see if it works. If it works, then that's great that it worked once or 2 or 3 times. But you can't trust it until you test it like 50 or 100 times.
Yeah, the old scientific method.
And is that all like completely different samples?
Yeah. So with the pieds, I have pied or het pied samples from probably 24 different people at least that have sent sheds into me. And then I have a couple of breeders. One breeder in particular, he sent me 140 pieds. They're all pieds. So he's got lots of animals.
Wow.
So I haven't run all of his, but I just have to have something, and it's nice for them to be, for this specific validation, I want them to be as unrelated as possible. So if there happens to be a pied that somebody has that, because, you know, the pied gene is potentially thousands. It's TFEC, but I don't remember how many base pairs it is, but it could be 2,000 or 3,000 base pairs, and you just have a single base change somewhere in that can lead to a knock, you know, making that gene not work or a knockout, or changing it so that it changes color or something like that. So it's possible that there would be another change somewhere else in the DNA that my test isn't designed for. It would still cause it to be piebald, but my test would call it not het for piebald because it's not where I'm looking. And so I want to test a whole bunch of unrelated ones just to make sure that my test covers all of the potential changes that lead to piebald. Like with ultramel and with albino and ball pythons, we know there's at least 2 different genetic changes that lead to those mutations. And so I just wanted to know for sure that piebald was going to be the same way, that lavender albino will be the same way in my hands with all the samples that I can get. Any of the others that we'll do, you know, as we get clown and desert ghost and, you know, some of these others, I'll want to run, you know, 50 to 100 known samples and make sure. For me, one of the most important things for me is if I give somebody a test result, is that they can trust that test result. If I'm the one in charge of designing and running the test, if I give you that result, there's a really good reason why I gave you that result.
Do you ever, I mean, obviously, you know, people have to send you in their samples in order for you to do the testing. Is there any, like, do you only work with like specific breeders and zoos, or do you like put the word out, hey, I'm looking for information on these, you know, types of genetics. If you have sheds that, you know, may relate to this project, send them in to me. I mean, where do you tend to find your samples?
That's a great question. And that's the powerful thing about me being in, you know, breeding pythons for the last 20 years. I do have, you know, many people over the years, and I'm so grateful to them that when I say, hey, like just these last couple of weeks, I said, hey, I'm ready for blue tongue skink sheds. And all of a sudden I've got a dozen people collecting sheds for me and sending them in. Sometimes I do just say it, you know, in our Facebook or Instagram, or, you know, I might say, hey, like at one point I said, hey, we're looking for pied and lavender albino sheds. And then I only needed to say that for a week or 2. And then all of a sudden I had so many that I, you know, stopped saying that because I've got plenty to be able to run. So thankfully there's a lot of people that have, especially going back to the Morelia Python forums days, people back then that, have known I kind of through this whole journey of trying to develop genetic tests in reptiles. If they themselves or they know someone, they'll jump on it and get sheds to me as quick as they can. I've got lots and lots of sheds saved back that I've had for years, and I'm starting to pull some of them out for species that I didn't know if I was going to get to, but we're getting to do more and more different species. But if you have anyone listening to this, if you have a more of a rare reptile species, feel free to reach out to me. Say, hey, I've got these. I had somebody talking about sunbeam snakes, and they wanted to send some samples in. I've never run anything on any sunbeam snakes, so I'll happily take them. And once I have a half dozen or something, that might be all I need. I don't necessarily need 200 sunbeam snake samples, but yeah, that for sure. Feel free to reach out to me. If it's a piebald ball python, I do not need any more of those.
That's a Hardin County Hopes in our chat said they've got a likely pair of Varanus salvador, so water monitors. If you need samples, the male is shown that it is a male.
Yeah, if it's a known sex, yeah. Shoot me a message.
Morrell's boas?
If the Dumerals has some really good paperwork, like ancestry information, yes. If it's just one that you bought from a breeder, not yet, because I'm still working that out to be able to tell for sure. I've got some microsatellite data that seems to show some separation between the two, and the mitochondrial. Sorry, I'm getting more nerdy.
Go for it.
So I do have some of that testing worked out, but it's not to a point yet where I'd be ready to run, and be able to tell somebody if something is a cross for sure, or if it's pure. I can't do that yet, but I'm on the way there.
I'm very interested to see how that goes, just because. So whenever importing for Madagascar opens, because it opens and closes depending on who's in charge of the government at whatever time, and you can tell when it does because you'll see huge influx of things from Madagascar that come in. It'll be very interesting to see, because you don't see a ton of Madagascan ground boas labeled as Madagascan ground boas, at least in the hobby. So I wonder how many have come in labeled Dumerals boas and just sold out as Dumerals boas over and over again to people, and have now spread throughout the hobby. And you have so many of these hybrids, not just Madagascan ground boas and Dumerals boas, because they've got to come in when these importing windows open up.
Yeah.
Have something on a different subject that's kind of exciting.
Go for it.
VivTech just announced that they're launching their smart monitor this weekend at Tinley.
Oh shit.
That's pretty freaking awesome, where you'll be able to.
What is that?
So he's still, I'm not going to say, because he's probably told us more than he's put out, but basically you'll be able to monitor everything from an app, or possibly control everything from an app, including your thermostats. And
because now he has the LED UVB bulbs, which is a huge changer, but now he also has
they're also dimmable
LED UVB bulbs.
So you can set them to ramp up,
sunrise,
down, sunrise and sunset.
That's exciting.
Dude, Ryan and Erica are changing the game.
I'm excited because I haven't moved my Euromastics over to the bulb yet. I'm waiting until I need to replace the current bulb, but I would love something dimmable.
Like they literally announced it 5 minutes ago.
Sweet.
That's cool.
Yeah, he's got some big plans.
Cool. I'm exciting. Eventually I will have everybody on VivTech bulbs. I freaking love them.
Dude, they're an amazing product.
Yeah.
Oh, I love them.
They're awesome.
I've got mine.
Anytime people start talking about like, oh, you shouldn't be using coil bulbs, I'm like, they're not coil bulbs.
Yeah.
Go research. These are awesome.
Yeah, then you have to be careful, because you have people go, well, LED bulbs don't work. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna go with Ryan on this one.
Ryan had 4 different meters there, and we tested them all.
Yeah.
They were all the same.
Yeah. So that's cool. That'll be an awesome thing. I know, because his eventual goal is really to be able to have that whole, talking about Madagascar. If Madagascar has certain temperature this time of year and sunrise at this time and sunset at this time, you'd be able to set your chameleons cage from Madagascar to be just like Madagascar at that moment in time, which would be really cool.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
So sweet. Am I going to Tinley? Go by the VivTech table and check it out. Take pictures. And
I wish I was going. Not this time.
One of these days I'll go to Tinley.
I went right before I went to the last Tinley before it all got shut down, and then I have not been back.
I've not been yet, but we will probably later this year.
Yeah, it's an awesome show. Oh, one other person commented on here for the testing. Ashley Howdy over at Focus Cubed Cages said more widespread and accurate PCR virus genetic testing. I don't know if y'all do any of that sort of stuff or that, but she says she spent thousands on tests for one of her monitors over the years, and it's likely nothing that can be done because it may not even be viral, but nobody can say for sure.
Yeah, the reason why I've stayed away from viral testing is some of them are RNA viruses, and RNA is a pain in the butt to deal with compared to DNA. So I don't like going down that route. I like staying with DNA. DNA is my friend. RNA is evil.
Keep that one single-stranded shit out of here.
And just in general, I don't have a real good handle on virus and bacteria. And when I was part of Australian Addiction Reptiles, Justin Julander, he's a virologist, and so we talked several times about things like that. I know he knows now that NIDO is more of an issue. He's been a big part of some of that research and work. But yeah, it's just kind of outside of my strengths.
What's your favorite DNA project that you've worked on? Either favorite or like, what's the coolest one that you've worked on?
The coolest one, which some of you may have seen in the news, the pig heart transplant that went into a human. And
he just passed, right? That was the guy.
Yeah, he passed away. So that was a pig that I helped do the genetic edits and the embryology for.
Oh, wow. So it wasn't just someone's pig off of a farm?
Nope. It was a very expensive pig.
Old man Williams pig off the farm. And
so that was
I just read that story.
Pretty special and exciting thing that was went around the world. That's going to make a difference, and we already have many different around the world, people that want to use our genetics, and so that's a pretty life-changing thing, because there's they think they said on average 17 people a day in the United States that die because they can't get an organ. And if we can start producing organs in pigs that have had their immune system changed so it's more human-like, and we can use those as transplants, at least to bridge people over for a year or two till they can get a human one, or maybe even last longer, then obviously that's going to be pretty life-changing for a lot of people.
What is it about pigs specifically that make them good candidates?
Their heart looks like ours. It's really cool. I did a fetus or a pig fetus when I was in high school, and you open it, it's like a little tiny human heart.
Oh wow! See,
so
I dissected a frog.
That does not look like ours. That is not.
That's
like
a
ours
lot different. Not as many chambers. So yeah, pigs. The size, first of all. Second of all, the fact that they're not a primate is good, because diseases that affect pigs are less likely to overlap with what would affect a human. There are still some zoonotic, so something that would infect a pig that could also infect a human. There are some, but it's a lot less than if you were doing like monkey or baboon or chimpanzee transplants. There'd be a lot more diseases we'd have to worry about. And then also the fact that pigs are amazing with reproduction. So their generation interval, the amount of time between having babies and then the large litter size, it's just kind of almost everything is in line for pig being the perfect organ donor for humans.
Plus, if you get it to work, every time you save a life, you get bacon. It's the best way to sell that one. We saved your life. Here's your pound of bacon from the pig that helped save your life. Like, that'd be your exiting thing.
Okay, what Ben said was super interesting.
Bacon's always interesting. I don't know what you're talking about.
And on the bacon side of things, one of the edits that we made so that pig cells wouldn't be rejected by the human body is the edit that was needed for people that have meat allergies. So we actually are able to offer pork for people that have alpha-gal syndrome. So that's especially a problem on the East Coast, but that is spreading. We sent some meat out to a person in California who had gotten bit by a tick there. So it's a tick bite that then causes you to be allergic to
I heard of
red meats.
We have the Lone Star tick here in Texas.
That's the one that does it. Lone Star tick is one of the main ones.
So you're telling me there's something in this state that could cause me not to eat bacon?
Could cause you to not eat any red meat.
Fuck this state. I'd starve to
death. It could cause you to go into anaphylactic shock.
I have found a Lone Star tickle myself after hunting before, and it hadn't attached yet, and I'm like chicken everywhere. Like,
Yeah.
no, if I can't eat meat, I'm just gonna die.
I would starve to death. I don't
Yeah.
eat vegetables.
Right.
Fun fact, I
Yeah.
am neurotically terrified of ticks, like to the point where if I have seen one on me, I will get down on my hands and knees and I will inspect the floor looking for them. I am absolutely terrified of them.
I've cleaned.
Thank you. Now I have something else.
I'm super
Add
scared
to
now
my
of actually getting bit by a
hypochondria.
tick
I
in
mean,
the state.
I've cleaned. I mean, I've processed conservatively 1,000 deer and pigs in my life, and they're if it's the early part of deer season or anytime in the summer, they're covered in ticks.
I'm
covered in
never
them.
going to want to go hiking again.
We actually take now, especially on pigs in the summertime when we shoot them. If we're gonna, like when I used to guide a lot, wash the whole damn thing in Dawn dish soap. I mean, I just coat them with Dawn and then wash them, and there'll be 200 ticks on the ground dead.
I'm gonna be itchy.
I'm
for the
not
rest
afraid
the
of
night
ticks,
now.
but I am
Ugh.
greatly afraid of not being able to eat bacon for the rest of my
Oh,
life.
I'm,
There's Jason.
I'm,
Yeah.
I'm terrified.
So permethrin treat your clothes when you're going
Mhm.
out and do good
Always.
Oh,
tick
fuck yeah.
check. Make sure you
I'm
have
gonna spray myself down.
I permethrin my snake boots every time I go hunting. I spray them down with permethrin, and
Yeah.
but some of the ticks they sit on like branches and stuff, and they're looking for a host to walk under, and they'll drop on you. So, yeah,
This is horrifying.
yeah,
I'm so glad that I joined y'all tonight.
yep.
So glad.
There's
This is great.
a very popular podcast called the Lone Star Outdoor Show. Guy named Cable Smith does it, and it's a hunting centric podcast. A couple of years ago, he had a lady on who was an entomologist who studies the Lone Star tick. So I listened to that one and I learned a whole lot about that
See,
problem. And
you
yeah,
ruined it. I thought Ben's great news about being able to edit the pig's DNA was that he made the pig taste like maple, so you get maple flavored bacon. But no,
at least, hey, if you get infected by the Lone Star tick, that's your hero right there, because you could still eat bacon because he's helped to develop a pig that you could still eat.
We've gotten some really moving letters from people that have gone
bet.
20 25 years without being able. Some of them can't even smell it, so they can't go to like barbecues.
oh god,
There's one guy who his whole life's dream was to own a restaurant, and now he can't even be within smelling range of his restaurant, otherwise he reacts. And we're able to send these people bacon and ham that they can eat, and then they're very emotional. It's amazing.
I mean, never to be able to eat another pulled pork sandwich.
So when I had COVID and couldn't taste anything for several days, I'm like, this is the shit that'll make you commit suicide. Like, this is the shit that'll send you into deep spiraling depression. And I have some friends who've been a year now and can't taste. I couldn't imagine.
Well, why couldn't the tick be like, oh no, you get bit by this tick and you can no longer eat kale? I'll be good.
Right.
I'm
That'd be
fine.
better.
Right.
Last night
Been practicing for that for my whole life.
last night I had a dream that I was bitten by a copperhead and I had to go to the hospital. And then there was like a murder.
And then Dr. Spencer Green saved your life.
Okay, but he was actually in the dream, except that he was like super short and had these like weird buck teeth. It was
That is not what he looks like, but okay.
it was bizarre. I know it was bizarre. I had wine. Weird dreams when I have wine. But now tonight, I'm really looking forward to the horrifying nightmare.
Megan's gonna be messaging us at 3 a.m.
about these ticks.
She's like, are you sure I can still eat meat? God, that is just horrifying.
It's gonna be itchy forever now.
Mhm.
And I get really bad reactions to poison ivy, so I have to, if I'm out, I just got to be on really wide paths. I grew up in Utah, and there's not as much vegetation. There's not as many ticks and not as much poison ivy. But here in Virginia, I just have to stay away from the plants, which thankfully keeps me away from a lot of the ticks.
Just stay inside. I'm almost at that point now. I'm horrified to go outside now.
Yeah. You don't here, not so much. It's more in hill country, Edwards Plateau area.
So like out where I'd want to go herping.
No, that's West Texas.
Okay.
West Texas, you just have to worry about 7 different species of rattlesnake and
No, I'm cool with
giant
that.
redhead centipedes.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
Not,
me too.
not the centipedes, but the rattlesnakes.
The worst that happens there is I could die. The tick, though, on the other hand,
Right.
will keep me from
Could just
eating
make
bacon.
you want to die.
Make you want to, yeah.
So that's a huge
Oh
difference.
my God.
Yeah, deserty places, you're gonna be good.
Excellent. What part of Virginia are you in?
Right by Virginia Tech. So we're
Okay.
about a half an hour from Roanoke. We're right by
Old
Blacksburg,
Roanoke.
where
My
Virginia.
parents
Okay.
are just moving away from Virginia in like 2 or 3 weeks. My mother is from Withful, Virginia.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's
That.
right near us.
It's a stop off the interstate. It's
Okay.
That's
I used
like
to live in
15
Northern
minutes
Virginia.
from
Yeah.
my in-laws.
oh really?
Yep, they're
Yeah,
right
they,
next to the With County border.
They moved up there a couple years ago, and now they're moving back down to Alabama. But I know that part of Virginia.
Yeah.
But so going to some of the things that get posted on our Facebook group page, Max shared a thing from I'm gonna screw this up. So yeah, I can't want to say Asplendia, but that's
Like
Travis's stupid plant that his email is after.
Right.
And but it was the Asclepius Snake Bite Foundation.
That's what Brent
Brent from Venom Life. That money goes to help them. They're opening up a clinic, which is very interesting. They're almost ready. They've got air conditioning, which is a big thing over there, and it's going to be able to train doctors from the entire area on how to do this. They're going to have affordable anti-venom, which we still don't have affordable anti-venom in the United States for the most part. So at least they'll have it over there for them. But it was just talking about how they're getting ready to be able to open this up. It was really cool. So people, if you want to do that, you can still donate to the Asclepius Snakebite Foundation and help them out.
They also too, I can't find that post in the group that you're referring to, but if you have any like gently used electronics that you want to recycle, like phones, tablets, laptops, things like that, you can mail it to them and they will you can mail it to them and they will refurbish those electronics to use in the clinics.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I have a couple of tablets I could send them.
I have the address somewhere. I'll find it.
I bet Brent can help you figure that out.
Yeah.
But
I talk to him like 4 times a week. So.
Yeah.
Did you see this giant diamond python that Brian McDowell?
The black one?
That black one?
it's
Yes.
so pretty.
I now
saw
follow the
that.
reptile bloke because he has some cool stuff that he finds over there. That thing is ridiculous.
Ben, you saw that one?
Yeah.
That is an impressive diamond.
Yeah. I would love to have that.
So that we don't get to have.
Right.
Add that
Yeah.
to the list of
We can just
things I
view it from a
have.
distance.
So jealous.
Do you see also got posted? There's a new copycat for Morph Market.
Yeah. I
Rep-
didn't even give him a click.
Rectify, and they even kind of stole the tagline from Morph Market.
And John Lehman commented.
John Lehman commented, yeah, they stole his tagline.
Yeah.
So I'm sure that one will do well. Whatever. Just going through.
It might, because you gave him a shout out.
That's true. I screwed it up for John Lehman. Sorry, John.
I think he's doing okay.
I think it'll be fine.
Yeah.
I did post this picture or this video of a fish tank in Saudi Jeddah airport, but it's a fucking 3-story
Yeah.
a massive fucking fish tank in the middle of this airport.
I can't imagine how thick that acrylic's got to be to hold that kind of.
I can't
pressure.
imagine making my flight.
Right.
I would stop. I would just stop and watch sharks swim around.
Yeah.
But then I looked at it, I was like, they can do that. You're talking about an area of the world where they can build fucking islands if they want. They can put the ocean inside of an airport. They're all right. They can do that.
I mean, you look, that handrail is about 4 foot tall.
Yeah. That's a 3-story fish tank
That is
in the middle of an airport.
I can't imagine the amount of pressure that is on that acrylic at the bottom. It's got to be 8 inches thick.
More. I'm sure it's more.
Yeah.
But yeah. I saw that in an aquarium group, I think, and I was like, holy shit, that's an insane aquarium. There's also a video that's been floating around all over the place of the hairy snake.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've seen that one, Ben, of the hairy snake.
I haven't.
You haven't seen
I
it?
missed that.
It looks like this green, shaggy, hairy snake, but
It's a puff face water
It-
snake.
it's a puff. Well, yeah.
According to Ryan McVeigh.
Ryan McVeigh comment. He says it's a puff-faced water snake covered in moss. It's this very hair-like moss along the entire body of this thing.
Wow.
And the funny thing is, the video's like, we're not sure what it is. I'm like, you have it in captivity. You can't figure it. It's right there. You can figure out what it is. Just pick the fucker up and figure out what it is.
It looks like something out of Sesame Street.
Well, it's obvious it's a snake because you can, 1, see the tongue coming out of its mouth, and 2, you can see the moss flaking off the body as they mess with it.
So
Ryan Cox says some people say 8 inches is enough.
So that guy coming into California from Mexico had 43 horn lizards and 9 snakes in his pants.
In his pants. So do you think they asked him, is that a snake in your pants?
Are you happy to see me? Yeah. In your crotchal area.
Why does your crotch smell that bad? What is?
That's crazy.
Oh, Ryan Gosling posted an article about gharials, which was very interesting. I read it. They had found some crocodilian skeletons in China. For the longest time, they just assumed they were crocodiles. But after doing some studies, they realized they were actually gharials that were probably there up to 300 years ago, and that they have been eradicated due to, because they found one that the head looks like it had been chopped off by humans. Like it had been chopped repeatedly. And they figured also they've lost a lot of land due to rice paddies. They lost a lot of habitat. And so they think they've been there up to 300 years ago. And the article is interesting. It talks about how alligators split from crocodiles earlier than gharials split from crocodiles, which is interesting because alligators and crocodiles look far more alike than our gharial does to anything.
Yeah.
But that was very interesting to see that. And they have now figured out these species of these skeletons were actually gharials and not crocodiles. So I actually read one scientific thing. I was tired. I read one scientific article and I was done. I couldn't make it anymore. Travis posted, I need to listen to this one. It's a podcast. It's the Snake Talk podcast. And they talk about how there's been a decline in tropical snakes due to the decline in amphibians because of chytrid fungus. I'm assuming, I haven't listened to it yet. I should have just asked Travis to give me a rundown, but I'm assuming it's a loss of food would be the biggest problem because the chytrid is not affecting the snakes. But if you lose the food, which I'm sure many of these snakes are eating frogs there, that's an issue.
I'll just throw that one on my to listen to tomorrow. I love the podcast, but I haven't listened to that episode yet.
A lot of good ones on there.
Mm-hmm.
They talk about way smarter stuff than us usually. This person was in a photo contest. They had this heron trying to steal a frog from a snake, which is a cool photo, but not nearly as cool as the one that was shot like 5 miles from here.
Yeah.
Of the mud snake trying to get out of the mouth of the bird as the bird was swallowing it.
Yeah, that was so cool.
And all I could think the whole time was, I fucking hate that bird.
Yeah.
I can't find a mud snake.
And here it is eating one.
Fucking eating a mud snake.
I found 2 DORs and the one I accidentally killed in East Texas.
No.
Driving through a mud hole in our deer lease we used to hunt it,
Ugh.
and I was being a little stupid and hit the water really fast.
That sucks.
And I saw the snake fly out because I knocked him out of the water with the skid guard, and before I could stop, I ran over him with the mule.
Rude.
I have only found
Felt
one dead adult, and I found one dead baby at a rest stop once on the other side of the interstate.
I have found none because they don't want to be my friend.
I have a place that if I get back on that lease, you can go up there with a net and run it through. There's about 20 of these mud holes on the road, and you're going to find a dozen of them, and amphiuma and sirens and
Sweet.
I bet
cottonmouths. And
I bet if I went with you, there would be none.
right, there would just be no herps that day.
You don't get to go.
Because
Right.
let me tell
We'll send you
you
pictures.
how much time I spend out at Brazos Bend, and do you know how many snakes I find out there? 0.
So James and I did not go herping yesterday because I just didn't have time. And our friend that was going to show us,
Mhm.
he ended up not being able to go to the afternoon. He immediately found a speckled king yesterday.
Of course he did.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. I go out there, I don't see anything. Nothing. I see trash. I see seagulls.
Lacey stuff. We had someone in the chat earlier asked about Lacey stuff. Dallas Rua did post a FAQ from US ARC's page about the Lacey Act. When you go there, read a bunch of the frequently asked questions. But right now, we're still just kind of in a holding pattern because we're waiting for them to get back to DC and make decisions that hopefully help us.
Apparently they're back because
Are they back?
The daylight savings bill passed the Senate today to do away with daylight savings time.
Sweet. They need to go ahead and clear that one up.
Yeah.
That'd be nice.
Yeah.
I'm done with that. It's
So
one of the few things Arizona did right.
with that, there'll be some months out of the year where sunrise won't be until 8:30.
You know what? I'm fine with that.
I'm cool with that. That means that
okay
the
with
sun
that.
won't set until
Right.
late too. So
I want to leave it the way that it is now. I like having more
yeah, it was
sunlight.
7 o'clock and there was sunlight outside and you could do stuff.
Yes.
That's how they
I
want
love
to do
that.
it.
And
That's-
I don't know if it was because of the pandemic or what, but
Well-
this last time change, before going into winter, whatever.
Yep.
Man,
I used to work
that
for
was
a
rough.
for a home remodel company that was based out of Phoenix. And anytime we'd want to make a purchase at Home Depot or anything, we'd have to do a phone sale. Well, when they're on their stupid non-daylight savings time, I say stupid because we're on it. I couldn't buy anything till 10 a.m.
Ugh.
during those months because they're not in the office until freaking 10 o'clock. So yes, we all need to be on the same, thing.
I agree. I've said for years that it's ridiculous, and farmers can just wake up whenever the hell they want to wake up. I don't stop ruining it for everybody else. But so the whole reason, the whole reason I reached out to you was I watched Ed and Emily came to y'all's place on Snake Discovery, and they were talking to y'all, and I was like, and as soon as I heard Doom Worlds, I was like, ooh, I like Doom Worlds bows.
Mm-hmm.
And then I was like,
James got 1, so my wife got 7.
yeah, that's a weird thing. I was like, I really like Doom Rolls. I got 1. Rachel's like, I like 1. I'm gonna get 7.
They are pretty.
Yeah, that one she got this weekend is
that's awesome.
Gorgeous, man.
I need
Came from D&T Retics, actually.
Need to probe that and see if it's male or female.
Yeah,
because it feels kind of female-ish.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't care either way.
Well, it's like you have a male. As long as you have a male, you can have 15 females. It doesn't matter. So what is on the horizon? What is the next thing you're like, ooh, we got to try and do this? Next thing you want to try and get a test for?
They're kind of all spread out in different stages. So I'm definitely excited about the blue tongue skink and pythons, ball pythons, green tree pythons, and hopefully it will work in other pythons as well. So sex determination and all of those. The Madagascan boas and the Panther Chameleon locales, those are fun. I'm enjoying working on those and figuring that out and what all we can say and how to improve it. Something I haven't touched yet, probably Heloderma and Varanid sex determination. I'm looking forward to playing with those. That'll be fun. And then obviously all the morph stuff. So not only with ball pythons, but it'd be nice to be able to do it in hognoses and corn snakes and, just kind of look at various things like that. I'd also love to be able to have more of like an identity test that we could use to look at across various different species of captive bred animals and kind of see, how inbred various and how crossed, like maybe a Honduran milk snake, how many different species or subspecies are in the, what are kind of the hobby Hondurans. There's a lot of different things that would be fun to play with. Once we can do some more things with the genetics and, scrubs. I love scrubs. That would be really cool to do some work with scrubs too.
Corns would be interesting since there's no normal corn snakes left in the entire world. Like that'd be just because someone could send you a shed from a normal and you'll have like 15 hets hidden in there. I'm like, here you go. Here's your now normal corn snake with its 15 hets.
Yep.
Yeah.
Kind of like there's no normal ball pythons. Because if you buy a ball python at PetSmart or Petco, it's het something because it was some breeder's trash ball python that was normal. They're like, all right, wholesale them off to PetSmart, Petco.
Mm-hmm.
Because I've seen so many breeders are like, I'd just sell all my hets as normals and wholesale them and get rid of them. And I'm thinking, man, imagine what people have just sitting in their cages at home.
Well, I forget who it was. It's talking about how they sold off an entire clutch of head acids because they couldn't prove that they were het. So they sold them, but somebody out there got a bunch of head acids that thought they only had a normal. So if they ever managed to pair them up, they'd get some very expensive snakes. And apparently that's pretty common.
Yeah. So that will definitely change the hobby. It'll and the fact that someone could have a triple or quadruple het, which would be worth quite a bit, and then they go, look, it is a triple or quadruple. I've got paperwork to prove that it is. And so it's got to be crazy to you, Ben, that this is an actual business now. Because I've got to imagine when you entered into the field of genetics, you're like, oh, I like genetics. And then when you entered into the hobby of reptile, you'd be like, I just like reptiles. But I don't know if you ever thought that it could truly be this kind of a business at some point that could really run. I mean, there's a ton of breeders out there who could use this.
Yeah, it's fun to watch it get, I've been doing the Kluber sex determination test for a little over 3 years now, and just to see that, I really haven't done much advertising. Obviously having Ed and Emily come, that was giant.
Yeah.
So since they came, I'm getting piles of envelopes now. So that's great. So yeah, I mean, it's fun, not only because I love genetic testing, I love reptiles, but also to be able to give people the opportunity to learn more about the animal they're keeping so they can look at the DNA, which obviously I'm biased and love that and have always been interested in that side of it. But you can look at the DNA and know more about the animal that you have. I love making that possible for people.
Okay. I just want to take a bet that he has one. We'll see. Do you have a sticker T-shirt or button somewhere of Mr. DNA from Jurassic Park? Somewhere.
I don't, but I definitely have Jurassic Park stuff. I just don't have that specific one. That's
Yeah.
probably my favorite movie of all time. And earlier when you were talking about retic dumps, I was going to say, think about Jurassic Park, the dump there. That's one massive pile of shit. So
Yeah.
I've always watched that movie, seen the giant pile of shit, and then look at the Triceratops it's supposed to come from. I'm like, that's higher than its asshole. I don't know how that works. But
yeah.
that's one of those movies where, like, as a geneticist, you have to go, that's an awesome movie, but that's not how that works.
Yeah, I mean, Crichton did a really good job. If you, as a, with a scientist hat on, read his books, he did a good job. I felt, I guess maybe I'm biased because I grew up reading Crichton stuff. It's not as much of a stretch as some other authors. There are other authors that are harder for me to read because it's way more of a stretch.
Because they probably never talked to any sort of scientist and you're like, I'm just going to write whatever I think science does. That's what I love in the newer the Lost World movies, where they try to cover their ass, because we now know that velociraptors had feathers, and they're like, it's because we mixed it with frog DNA. And they usually leave that like, good cover, way to go, way to go. We learned more stuff and we didn't actually know it back then. But
yeah, the newer ones, none of them are as good as that first one. That first one is almost a religious experience to watch. The others, some of them are okay, but that first one was the stuff.
I'll probably watch this last one that's coming out just
because it's got the originals.
Just for nostalgia, because
yeah.
they're coming back. But anything after the first one, I'm like, what?
The third one is garbage. The third one is absolute garbage.
Where they bring the T-Rex into New York or whatever.
No. That's the second one. I like that's Lost World. I like Lost World. It's that Jeff Goldblum. I like Jeff Goldblum. But it's the one where it's just the doctor and they go to the island to save the boy.
Oh yeah.
And it's not good.
Yeah. But William H. Macy in it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I still get goosebumps every time in the first one where they get to the island, they're driving on the Jeep, and they first see the Brontosaurus and the music plays.
That music, that's the best part.
Oh, the score is absolutely incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Every time. Love that movie.
Almost brings a tear to my eye. Just imagine the feeling that you would have as an archaeologist and you're experiencing that.
I just love so he's standing there with the dinosaurs and he finds out that they have a T-Rex. And his first thought isn't fucking where, because that'd have been my thought. It's like, where? But his first thought was, and he wants to see it. I'm like, look around, just make sure it's not there.
Right.
There's a dinosaur in front of you and there's like 15 over there. No one told you if it's locked up or not.
Right.
That whole thing. That's every time I see they talk about bringing back extinct animals or DNA wise. Like, we have a whole basis for not doing it, guys.
Yep.
We've seen where certain situations would not work.
See, and to me, it's totally worth it. That's a good 100%. Way to go out. Yeah. Get me on an island by myself, and the opportunity to really do that, that's the good way to go.
Death by Velociraptor.
Sign me up.
So you and I haven't been in the hobby the same amount of time. Early 2000s and all, you really got into it because you talked about king snake and all that. So Robert hasn't really been in that long, and you haven't been in it that long, right? So it's always nice to talk to somebody who's seen the progression. How weird is it to go from like king snake days where you kind of met people online and you may see them if you could make it to a Daytona or some of the big shows, to now like you realize that there's people like down the street that own the stuff you own that you never would have met had social media not grown the way it is, and how everything now that reptiles are so common and pets say so common, way more common than they were then.
Yeah. It's so crazy. And just the ability to access information about keeping and breeding is so much easier. And you were in it probably far enough back. You had a few of the flyers. You send a self-addressed stamped envelope, and they'd send you back their availability list. I mean,
I still love the back of Reptiles magazine, seeing all the stuff in the back of Reptiles and all the ads.
I would say the biggest thing that I miss is that social media has been awesome for a lot of different things, but the thing that I think is the worst is that you're not able to search and find conversations.
Yeah.
So for me, I would go to like one of those forums and I would search. I would remember, okay, somebody was talking about breeding white-lip pythons, and if someone's asking this question, I remember on this forum, and I could just go search it. I could pull up a discussion from 3 years before. It's like 50 different comments from 3 different people that know what they're doing, and it was so awesome to be able to find that kind of conversations, and it was kept. With social media, that stuff just kind of disappears over time, or it's almost impossible to find again because it gets buried because there's so much information. So that's the biggest downside. I really liked being able to search those forums back in the day.
Well, I think we've got so much. You talk about it's so easy to find information now, and it is. We've also reached a point where people don't want to have to go find information now, which is also dangerous as well.
Yeah.
So, look, there's so much information out there. They're like, yeah, but can you tell me exactly? Don't get me wrong. I do the same thing, Travis, about all the scientific articles, but still, send
me the link.
Yeah, or send me the video. Just give me the video. And if there's not a video of it, and if they saw one video, that's all they needed to see. Like there's no checking 2 or 3. Like I posted an article, a little meme today, but before I did it, I went and looked like online to make sure. I was like, I don't want to be a dumbass and be wrong. So I went and looked at a bunch of different things. Went, okay, now I can post this. It's not wrong. But that doesn't happen now. That's I guess the ease of social media has gone. No, we can just, someone told me this one thing, I can go ahead and regurgitate that one thing for the rest of my life.
Yeah. But yeah, overall it's a better world now. I love the access to information. Like I said, I wish I could search old information, but the other thing that I think is massive, which all of you probably have felt this too, is that you love these animals, you think about them all the time, you want to talk about them. And back then it was like the people you work with think you're weird, your family members think you're weird. Like nobody wants to hear about
weird.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear about these specific snakes. I remember I went to this one guy's house, and when I was in high school, he was one of the grad students of Joe Mendelson. I went to his house and I was so excited because he had all these snakes, but he had like 200 tricolor colubrids, and he's going cage after cage showing, and they all look the exact freaking same to me. And but
well, it's always
but
funny.
then he also had some banded rock rattlesnakes and a few other things that were
nice. Well, we were so isolated, so you're the weird reptile guy wherever you are, and we still somewhat are, but now we can go to places like where we're not the weird reptile person. Like when we go to a reptile show this weekend, I'm not the weird reptile person. I'm me, and everybody else is them, and we're all kind of the same. But even now, even in the real world, if you're the weird reptile person, someone's mom's cousin, whatever, has a bearded dragon, leopard gecko, ball python, and they'll tell you about it. And so that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah.
One of the best.
Was good.
Yeah, one of the best. I mean, I feel like coming into the hobby when I did, social media was already so prevalent, and the connections that I've made, just over the last few years with people Oops.
Oh, we're back.
I lost you. Okay,
there we go.
You're back.
I mean, we connected because of social media.
Yeah.
And as it turned out, we're 10 minutes down the road from each other, so it's awesome. And I got into the hobby really around the same time that I moved down here. So I didn't have a lot of friends in the area. But through the hobby, I've made so many connections in Houston, and it's great.
Well, like Ben said, you said you need pieds, and all of a sudden you have a shit ton of pied sheds within a week. And it's like, that does not happen in the forum days.
No.
20 people may have saw your post, and one may have said, yeah, I could send you some.
Yep.
Yeah,
it's powerful.
And then we talk about other big advancements. We talked about VivTech, talking about bringing out their new control system. The equipment now available to reptile keepers is so much better than it was, early 2000s, especially some of the keepers that kept in the 80s, where they were having to make everything that they use. I mean, at this point, if you make anything that you use, it's because you're choosing to make it. They now make something that does whatever you need it to do. I mean, the thermostats that they have. I mean, I love my Herpstat thermostats. They're amazing.
Yep,
So.
I still have a drawer with dimmer switches in it, but I haven't used them for a lot of years.
I have a rheostat somewhere just so I can show people, don't get this, and then I show them a thermostat. But I used to have rheostats all the time because that's what they sold, and you just kept it low, kept it high, whatever you needed.
Well, I've had to draw a line in the sand with customers that if you call me up and say that your heat tape melted your tub, my first question is, what thermostat are you using? And if you're not using one of the ones that I told you to buy, if it's not a proportional thermostat, I'm not replacing it.
Yeah.
I'm going to go broke replacing tubs and heat tape from people wanting to use a $12 fucking thermostat.
Yeah. My stuff melted. Well, I told you it was going to melt. Like,
you spent $325 on this rack. You put $3,000 worth of snakes in it, and you use a $16 thermostat.
Yep. You buy.
Does that still happen frequently?
All the time.
Now, then?
At least once a week, I get one of those.
I've seen so many pictures that people send them of a tub that melted, or because they don't keep up with their equipment, and because they slide tubs in and out, they knock the thermostat probe off.
Yep. I had one that got ugly. Like, he wanted to blame me for him knocking a thermostat probe loose. And but he's one of those that never does anything wrong.
I'll say, were you the one that was pulling out his tubs?
No,
taking care of his animals?
No.
Okay, I'm failing to see the connection here.
I've bought all these racks from you, and I'm like, well, bro, I'll tell you, man, don't buy any more, I guess.
That's fine.
Yeah.
If you wouldn't have fucked it up, it wouldn't have burnt and melt.
Right.
Our fault. But yeah, no, that's also like we always talk about. People say I have thermostats, and they show you a thermometer too. So again, there's so much information out there, but people will assume they know everything.
What about heat rocks?
Oh, fuck.
Those?
They still sell those in pet stores.
I'm hoping with the changes we're making with the business, I'll be able to have thermostats at shows.
Yeah.
For too much longer, and say these are the thermostats that we approve. That's it.
Yeah.
I pretty much tell people, because I mean, I have people that are, they're just starting to want to get into keeping reptiles, and so they'll come to me asking for recommendations, and I'm like, basically, if the supplies come from PetSmart or Petco, just skip it. Like, go to these websites. This stuff is okay. Stay away from the pet stores.
Our first boa constrictor was in a glass tank on one of those old wrought iron stands that they sold glass tanks back in the mid 90s, on green AstroTurf with one of those tan ceramic bowls that were blue on the inside, and a heat rock.
Yep.
That was our first setup for our first thing. And I look back and I go, holy fuck, that was horrible.
It's painful to me that Repticarpet is even still a thing.
Well, this wasn't even Repticarpet. This was AstroTurf that they used to sell on a roll at a pet store, and they'd cut it off for you to fit your 20-gallon tank.
Shit you put in your backyard.
Yeah.
Well, like plastic. It was fucking like thin plastic.
Oh no.
Not even like made to look like
they
real
still
glass.
sell heat rocks at PetSmart.
Oh yeah, you can find them on the bottom shelf at PetSmart.
I've had people bring them to me before and be like, "Hey, what do I do with this?" I'm like, "I got some scissors.
Cut the cord off, and it's a decoration.
And it's a great decoration."
Enjoy your rock. Yeah, it's crazy the advancements that we've made, and now we're talking about Ryan with being able to control your entire setup from your phone on the other side of the world. That was one thing I remember when Herpstat first came out with the ability to see your online, like just online check your temperatures, but you couldn't do shit. So you could be in California and watch your shit burn from your phone.
That's why you love my Govee thermometer so much. I can just pull it up on my phone while I'm out of town and check temperatures.
Yeah.
Awesome.
But now the ability to be able to control all that from your phone is a huge advancement that I think, again, at some point we'll look at and go, yeah, that's normal.
Oh, yeah. I'm excited about that, especially for large collections.
Oh yeah. I'm excited that I can, if something's happening, I can shut it off from 2 states away and then take care of it when I get home.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause God, I've seen so many posts from people where they've come home from vacation and something malfunctioned and it cooked their animals. And that's probably my biggest fear.
We've had 2 people on recently. We had Tracy on when we were at NARBC. She went through a house fire. And we had Blake Wilson on this past weekend, and he went through a house fire, all because of heating element stuff. And these people that have kept, I mean, they kept good stuff. It's a thing that can happen with what we do. And, you know, I haven't thought about it, but I probably need to go through at some point and replace all the heat tape in my old racks that I've been running that heat tape for close to 10 years. I probably need to change out the heat tape in there and put new heat tape in them.
Probably not a bad idea.
So, but anyways, get away from the negative stuff. That's it. I think I've asked all my questions, all my genetics questions. I don't have to go to Travis anymore. Screw you, Travis. I'm gonna go to Ben now for genetics questions.
Travis is a good guy too.
I'm just gonna pick up a phone and call Virginia. And hope somebody at university picks up.
Hit a geneticist.
Yeah, we were talking about the positives of social media, not the negatives.
Yeah.
What was it?
I have a lot of regrets.
Oh, your friend that said they wouldn't be in your life without social media?
The biggest one is accepting that friend request.
So anybody out there that sends me a friend request, I'm not really apologizing if I don't accept it, but I'm probably not going to accept it if I don't actually know. I get people and I appreciate it, like listeners that'll be like, hey, they want to add me as a friend, and then I'll see like Sean's the friend or like and Robert's a friend, and I realize, oh, those guys accept everybody. I just can't.
I leave so many people in limbo. Or
I know.
if
I'm always afraid to hit. I'm afraid to hit the no button because I'm like, will they see that? I don't want them to see that I rejected them.
It won't say that you rejected them. It'll just go back to add friend. So
then they'll know.
But they won't get like a notification that you rejected them.
That works. I can deal with that.
So
I can deal with that. There's a list of people that know me, but I don't know them, and then also previous students. I'm like, I'm not adding you either. I didn't like you when you were my student.
I am friends on Facebook with one teacher. She was my 4th grade teacher.
I'm friends with my high school biology teacher.
I did not like any of my high school teachers.
I loved my high school biology teacher. He was an ex-hippie.
I went to 3 high schools, so it was not a good time.
I became a teacher. I messaged him and I thanked him for everything. I should have said, fuck you. Why did I become a teacher?
Our high school biology teacher had a rattlesnake in his room. Well, in a side room. He didn't let all the kids know, but he let us watch him feed a mouse to it. So I liked him.
There's no way you could do that nowadays. No way.
And it's actually illegal to keep in Utah. So he was breaking the law.
Ours had, I'm sure it functioned if you hooked it up, but it had a copper still up on the shelf. And so I wasn't 100% sure what it was in high school, but now I was like, wait, I know what that was. It was a still.
I had one high school science teacher in my junior year who had a ball python in the classroom. And this was before I really knew anything about reptiles. And so I thought it was just like super edgy that my biology teacher had a ball python in the classroom.
Yeah, because ball python keepers are so edgy.
And I was the only one who would take it out and like let it sit on my desk. And then,
And then fast forward and you realized, oh, it's a ball python.
Fast forward and I was like, oh, okay. They're cute.
All right. I'm hungry.
I am too.
So Ben, if people want to reach out to you, if they want to get certain sheds to you or figure out certain testing or buy testing, what are all the ways in which the best ways to contact you to do that?
So if you're interested what tests are available, the Rare Genetics Inc. website is the best place to go. We're on Facebook and Instagram as Rare Genetics Inc. So you can see, we'll announce when we're looking for sheds or when we have a new test available or, one is getting close. Right now we have a GoFundMe going that's helping to pay for the reptile morph sequencing. So like I said, right now it's ball pythons, but I fully intend to be able to branch that out into other reptile species. So there's a GoFundMe that I think the name of it is Reptile Morph Sequencing Project. So you can see us any of those places and shoot me a message if you have any questions on Facebook or Instagram or through the website. There's a contact us. Any of those things will work.
That's awesome. And I look forward to seeing how that grows and what all you can test for. Because again, I think the eventual goal of being able to just send in a shed and you can tell them it's this, and this, like the 23andMe kind of thing for people, but you can now do it for snakes. Go, here's your list of what your snake is.
And hopefully eventually we can do it for carpet python. We can do it for a boa. We can do it for, a retic. That would be fun someday.
So freaking cool.
Well, and as we go farther, it'll be super affordable. So people will be able to do it on a large scale. Everybody will be able to go ahead and make sure what the things are. They could sell a snake with a certification from him. So that's an awesome thing to be able to sell. So, and I know everybody goes, well, don't think of them as money, but they are fucking money. This is a business for some people. So being able to sell a snake for $1,000 versus $100 is a huge difference. And so that really is going to help a lot of people. And I mean, as a person that's buying an animal, it'll help ease your worry. Because you see all the time people going, has anybody ever bought from this person before? And, I've got, and I hate doing it because I don't tend to do it, but I have 2 possible het snakes in there that came from the same person. And I'm hoping one of them proves out. So I hate possible hets.
Yeah.
We can get rid of that.
Also, if it's someone kind of shady, you're not sure, you still decided to buy it. It's much better to do a test and find out right away that you got swindled than to raise them up for 3 years and then find out that they're not what you were told.
God, that would suck.
I know several people that have gone through that for sure.
Mhm.
especially the price tag on some of these animals that people have gotten
Mhm.
swindled on that
Oh yeah.
they get and find out.
I mean, hell, I've got a $4,000 ball python that's a het.
Ugh.
$3,500. That's a het that, but I trust the person I bought it from.
Yeah.
Because I also bought a visual. But yeah, it's always a gamble. And then that's when Rachel calls me up. It's only happened twice. I found a snake dead in the room, and I'm like, please don't be one of the puzzles. And it hasn't been. It was the last time.
And
it was the sunset.
We've also already seen an example of someone that did buy a snake from a very reputable, trustworthy breeder, and we know exactly what the pairing was, and I think that the female was a lavender albino, but this male that for sure should be het lavender albino never produced any, and I ran the test and he's not het lavender albino. So somehow, more than likely, there was a switch at some point, a mistake made, and snakes got switched in their cages, or some really weird genetic thing happened, which would be
or
pretty
Partho.
cool.
I guess you could have Partho from a parent, right? And that would.
Then it would be, if it's a lavender albino female, then all of her offspring would be lavender albinos. So
Gotcha.
and it's a male, so you wouldn't get
Gotcha.
a male from Partho. So
Yeah.
it's very strange. It could have been androgenesis, where all the genetics come just from the sire, but there's other parts. First of all, anyway, I won't go down that road too far. No, that's not the
super
case with
interesting
this.
though. Like,
It is.
I mean, I feel like,
But it's
I
like
mean,
not
you could do like multiple episodes surrounding this that were a couple hours long, and like you would never run out of information to talk about.
It's fun.
Yeah. And again, it'd be very interesting. Someone sends in a shed and they find out that their snake that was only $100 really is a $2,000 snake. That's also a fun thing going, oh no, this actually has this gene, this gene, this gene, because it was original parents were possible hets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
We did a giveaway for people, to kind of generate more donations to the GoFundMe, and it was a Pos het, genetic stripe, and clown, and it was also Pos het pied, but we ran the test, found out it was het pied, and then it's leopard and other things as well. But now that animal will be able to do those other tests for him in a few months and find out it might be triple het.
That would be awesome. So let's get. So before we go, again, everybody check out our giveaway for this month. Again, we're giving away a bunch of reptile books. Next month, we're giving away. I posted it on our group on our page though, a mandala from our buddies over at Crafty Gargoyle. So we'll have some sort of cool artsy mandala of a reptile up for next month's giveaway. Next week we will not be here again. I'm releasing our episodes from this last Herp show. So that'll be Herp's Bryan College. We got several really good interviews there. Again, make sure you listen to the Blake Wilson interview. You can listen to the stripper named Bambi.
Yep.
But that'll be an interesting one. And then we'll be back in 2 weeks, hopefully, with a friend of ours. So, Ben, thank you for coming on. It's been really interesting. I'm super excited to see where this goes. Thanks for filling in, Megan. I smell food downstairs, so I'm assuming my wife is home. She hasn't been up to say anything.
Somebody broke in and is cooking you dinner.
Someone's cooking dinner. Someone has food downstairs.
We ordered Mr. Beast burgers tonight. Mr. Beast, the YouTuber. Those freaking burgers are legit good. They are amazing. They're cooked at Red Robin.
Wait, a YouTuber started a burger restaurant?
He's an entrepreneur. He's 23. He's got 90-something million YouTube followers. But all these restaurants are struggling during the pandemic. So he said, well, I'll let them start these virtual restaurants. I'll send them all the ingredients. You can only order it online through Uber Eats.
And his name's attached to it.
Okay. Like one of those ghost kitchens.
So it's like these are cooked at Red Robin,
Mhm.
but it's not the Red Robin burgers. It is a smash burger, double patty.
Oh, that's interesting.
Freaking fantastic. He said some restaurants are doing $10,000 a week in extra sales of Mr. Beast burgers.
What's so amazing? What
He has
people
95 million followers
look at-
just on his English channel.
Look at what Ben said, having Ed, and we know the power of Ed and Emily.
Sure.
So having Ed and Emily there with all of their followers.
Oh yeah.
It's crazy.
Mr. Beast was on Joe Rogan last week, and I listened to it,
Yep.
and I'm like, I am a Mr. Beast fan now. My kid loves it. Now my kid's all excited because he
I
loves
love a good
Mr. Beast.
burger.
Oh my
That
god,
was
they're so good.
Super interesting podcast.
It really was. That guy
Yeah.
is 23 years old and is just doing things. I mean, he's set up like meal giveaway things, and
Mhm.
I think he's in North Carolina. Yeah.
Yep.
And he gave away like 20,000 turkeys at Thanksgiving. He got Genio to donate 20,000 turkeys. But he does all these super intricate YouTube videos, and like he'll pick 5 random people and say, "Put your hand on my Ferrari. The last one to take it off wins it."
I'd have a Ferrari.
Yeah, I mean,
I can tell you that right now.
Sit in this square. The last one out gets $1 million.
My drive to not lose is stronger than my drive to do anything else.
Yeah.
So,
yep, he gave away an island recently.
you told me that, and the guy was like, "I don't need a fucking island," so he sold the island.
For $1 million.
Yep.
I'm always telling my husband that I just want to move to a deserted island.
Yep.
You say that until you realize they don't
bought
have
an
plumbing or
island.
electricity.
He
Or
bought an island in the Bahamas, sight unseen, thinking it would have a beach on it, and got there and goes, "There's no fucking beach." And I wrote this whole thing, this whole video surrounding a beach. So he spent another $1 million having a terraform beach built on the island that's going to be gone in the first hurricane.
An island without a beach.
Yeah,
All
he
right.
just did one that was all the Squid Game games, like exact replicas of the Squid Games, and gave away a bunch of money. But like he even did like the glass panes where you had to figure out the tempered and the not tempered. Except you didn't fall to your death; you fell into a big thing of
Amazing.
padding. But yeah. Anyway,
And it has like 230 million views.
yeah,
that's insane.
All
Yeah.
right.
yeah.
The world we live in.
Yep. All right.
All right. Thanks, Ben.
Thank
Hang
you.
around as we say
Been
goodbye.
fun.
And we'll see everybody. We'll talk to everybody in 2 weeks. Enjoy our recordings from the show. Goodbye.